YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. I'm here with something super cool, the Dassault Rafale, and we are excited to bring it to you. Look at the bugs. That means it's springtime. So we're gonna be sucking a few of those up here pretty quick, and you may have noticed that there is a 6, nope, that's an 8. Awesome, we finally got the NX8 out. We're gonna show you how to use that if you follow the radio setup at the end of this video. Also, I wanna show you some cool features before we even take off. First of all, the landing gear are awesome, but look at the flaps. Awesome. That is so cool. Rudder still works. The ailerons are mixed into a crow configuration with automatic mixing. See that? That is so stinking cool. So we are gonna fly this right now for the Maiden, 80mm power on 6S 4000. Here, we'll do the gear for you because the gear are awesome on this plane. Look how sweet the lighting is too. It is a little bit awkward to hold this plane. That is so cool. As you can see, the nose gear didn't cycle, mostly because we hadn't cycled it yet. Which brings me to my next point. Make sure you cycle your gear the first time. Look at these oleos. So cool. They look like they're all metal. And then this support strut is actually a functional support. On the F-18, that saved my landing gear more than once. And then look at the nice landing gears. By the way, these are 90s. So they go in, and watch them go in. They spin into their hole. That is just so stinking cool. And sequence doors. Everything is built. This thing is so easy going together. Stick around for the build. We'll show you how we set up the radio, which was surprisingly easier. And we used the, what did we use in this one?
Oh, a 630.
Was it a 631? No, we did the AR 637T.
Yeah.
Because the reason we did that is that we wanted to have the full telemetry, but we only needed six. Yeah, it's an AR 637T. And like I said, 4000 6S Gen 2. That is a 50C pack. So without further ado, we got very light wind coming this direction. Throttle cuts off. We have a 3-minute timer, but we do have telemetry on the pack. So right now, we're at 25 volts.
Okay.
Takeoff flaps are dialed in. There is no delay on that. If you do a delay, you'll be surprised that it does not work very well.
Are you taking off towards the...
I'm gonna go toward the tree line, I think.
Okay.
I wanna see how tight it turns. Man, that thing looks so gorgeous. Look how sharp it turns. Guys, I usually don't back taxi planes just for the pure reasoning of I don't like wasting a lot of juice, but look how nice the bearings are on the landing gear. I think this plane would do just fine on grass. It's got very robust landing gear. I do not know how long it's gonna take to roll, so I'm actually a little bit nervous about that, but it's all right. Nothing a little CA and hot glue can't fix, right? Look how sharp it turns. That's awesome. Okay, so obviously with this plane, we've got good forward programming. Oh yeah, here we go, guys. Takeoff flaps are dialed in, about 20% throttle to get up over the hill, and then full throttle. Woo! Out of the flaps. Oh my goodness. There's the gear still, the doors are still thinking about it. That was almost a vertical takeoff. Okay, here we go. No trim yet. Look at this. Look at this. Flying totally straight.
Ow.
It sounds weird.
It does.
I have no idea.
Not what I expected.
Okay, listen. That sounds so cool and weird all at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Full speed pass. A little bit more confidence this time. Oh man, that yellow looks so gorgeous.
It does.
Hope you're getting a little bit of zoomage.
I'm trying.
Okay, here we go. Man, it'll turn just on a dime.
Yeah.
And it screams funny. Roll. Rolls pretty fast for a jet. Out of the throttle. Just gliding now. full and full. That is so cool. As you guys can probably imagine, an 80mm jet in this relatively small space should be problematic, but it's really been good. I want you to come about 10 steps over to your right, please. Thank you. Perfect. I want to go in between us and the house.
Oh, okay.
That's my 3 minutes.
Wow, that was fun.
Okay, I'm going to go up here, roll, and all the way over, nice and slow. Okay, coming outside now this time. You good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is awesome. I almost feel like my expo is maybe a little bit lacking. It's not bad. Okay, let's try a slower pass here. We've obviously blown 3 minutes screwing around. Take off flaps? No, no, nothing. Look at that, that is awesome. Okay, going on the inside, you good? Mm-hmm. That's still pretty speedy. Oh boy. That was full landing flaps.
Do you have a plan for that?
Look at this. Oh crap, that's my throttle. Okay, full landing flaps, gear. You need to be,
Yep.
You need to be good.
Yep.
Okay, going to the vampire killing zone, full throttle. Okay, throttle cuts on. I'm gonna go get that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay guys, so we didn't want to take anything away from you, but I just didn't know how wet it was. That was one heck of a maiden landing. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I was out of power and I hit that tree up there.
Yep.
The vampire killing zone almost killed another foreign entity. And so anyway, if we ever go to war, we'll just have them all fly through those trees right there. See this?
Ooh, that's a little stuck.
Oh yes, it didn't even damage my tip. I mean, it's a little brown.
Good thing it's rained all week.
Yeah, no kidding. I was gonna say, although I don't think it would have been quite as.
Yeah.
Okay, so initial thoughts. The flaps are somewhat effective in creating drag, but they're maybe not that effective. I would really, really, really like to see way more deployment just for extra drag. That being said, I didn't have enough time because I was just loving flying it so much. I didn't give myself near enough time. So I think all we have to do is just rinse that off. It doesn't even look like it crushed the foam, guys. We got terribly lucky there.
Yeah.
Now you'll notice that my voltage is at 20.9 relaxed, meaning if I were to throttle that, it would probably sag like crazy. Also, we did rip that missile off, just the foam. Camera crew, if you want to show them.
Yeah, just
it just delaminated from the mount.
Yep.
So that's actually like a 30-second fix.
Yep.
The only complication is that, as with many other jets, when you get this thing on the ground, especially with the oleos, it allows you to tip like crazy, just like the F-18. So if you're coming in and you literally are out of power and you can't get to the runway, that's what it looks like. Because when I came in, I was on the other side of the runway and I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to put any more juice on it. That's all I get. So I was desperately saving my power. I chopped the throttle as much as I could, and that's why I clipped the tree up there, which, did we even damage it up there?
I don't know.
I don't think we did.
Here, do you want me to hold?
Yeah, hold my dirty brown tip.
Gross. Thanks.
I know, it's just for you. Nothing but the best, camera crew.
Thanks.
Camera crew, can you also hold this somehow?
Sure, yeah, why not?
Okay, here.
Got it.
All right, so let's pick this thing up. Okay, are there damage points? Wow.
You got some grass in your missiles.
Oh, look, I must have whacked this. Yep, that's where it hit.
That'd be the tree, yeah.
Oh man, but we super lucked out on that. That is incredible. Guys, the landing gear were super stout, but look at the play on this. The play is just so much that it, just like every F-16 I've ever had, it's always wanted to tip, tip, tip like this. And I'm gonna cycle the gear. Oh, that is pretty incredible.
That one's not
that
gonna
one's
go in
bent
all the way.
a little bit.
Yep.
So it looks like it just probably tweaked out just a hair. Must not have been that much.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
You can see this one got pushed down. So definitely not the plane's fault.
That could have been the tree too, to be honest.
You know what? You're right. I wonder if it didn't
that
clip
side.
that. And then my beautiful, clean, beautiful wheels got dirty. But you know what? I think what we're going to do is we are going to reset. We'll take you inside and clean the tip off because everybody likes to watch me clean my dirty brown tip. And we'll come back for the Maiden. Okay, so we took out the 4050C. By the way, 3 minutes is probably a safe place to go for your Maiden. They did not say a time in the manual. Oh, 0%.
There you go. That makes sense.
Oh, wow, look at that one's
hold
low. I wonder if that's a false reading. Of course, there's no balance lead, so let's see what the charger says. I'm curious about that. That's pretty weird. So we're gonna turn on this Gen 2 charger. And I was telling you guys the other day, well, I don't know if you've seen the video yet, but basically when you plug in these Gen 2 packs, you have no balance leads to mess with. 6%, okay? So I don't know if the 0 is correct or not. That seemed a little weird to me. Okay, so coming back to the table, I pulled the other missile off so we have symmetry. I'm gonna actually glue this off camera when we're done filming because it's really hard to get those pieces unslid out without anything attached to them. So I'll just, like, it didn't damage the other one, which is really nice. So we'll get those glued back on. I'll probably use mucilage on that or hot glue. Haven't decided yet. But either way, I am super, super happy that that tip didn't get damaged. It just literally got covered in dirt. In fact, I want to use this dirt for our plant, camera crew.
Oh, great.
Yeah, because we need dirt in this plant because the cats keep digging in it.
Yeah.
But let's look at how much damage. Wow, that is just incredible, guys. I cannot believe it didn't get compressed because it would not be the first time that I nosedived a plane on Maiden. But look at this. I said something in the unboxing, and you guys will think I'm in crystal ball mode because I said this thing's gonna hold up better because it's simple.
Yeah.
And the shape is strong. You see
And
that?
it doesn't have
It doesn't have like a bunch of complex.
a weird angle or something.
It does have a little bit of an angle, but it's minimal.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like the F-15 and the F-16 both have quite a bit more taper to it, which is weird. You don't think about that when you envision a jet, especially one that you've seen, you know, your whole life. But this one's pretty well straight. And look, the only crushing is right there. And I don't even think that's from, I just think that's just the way it was made. So we're gonna go put this back on. We're gonna fly again, except this time, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up an audio warning event.
Well, that's a good idea.
And we're gonna use a 5,000, oops.
Wait, nope, I have
We're
it.
gonna use a 5,000 6S 50C. I believe that the FMS manual called for 45C. The 30C pack might be pushing it a lot because that thing was warm, okay? And if you're taxing a 50C pack on 6S, and I don't know, I felt like it had good power, and I don't know if you recall, but on the takeoff, I took off and I just pretty much janked it up because you do absolutely lose elevator authority when you have your takeoff flaps. So it's really not takeoff flaps. It's more of like half flaps for landing. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to take off with takeoff flaps because it's just not appropriate on this airplane. So let's talk about audio vents. So audio vents are going to be set up. If you click, oh, I want to clear that timer too right now. Click, go down to audio vents, telemetry warnings. There is a vario on this thing too because it's an AR630. 637T. A 637TA would not have it. This one does. Oh, there it is.
Volts, right?
Yeah, volts. Sorry, guys. Okay, so volts min. That's pretty low. I'm going to put this to 6S. Okay, and then it says 18, but I don't know. That seems pretty low to me.
Yeah, because when you looked at it,
It was 20.
it was 20 something.
So if we have 6 cells and we're at 3.8 each, then this is where I always have to think really hard.
Do math on
Yeah.
camera, which we're really bad at doing.
We've done it a few times and I've learned my lesson. I'm just gonna get a calculator. Okay, so if I want 3.8 volts per cell times 6, then that's gonna be our 22.8. The problem is I want the warning to happen slightly before. And the thing is, on this jet, I was pretty much on the throttle the whole time. Much like the F-18, which is also an 80mm EDF, I was on the throttle hard. Because you want it to fly like a jet. You don't want to go up there and just like glide around all dainty. I mean, I want to be doing loops and stuff. Okay, so let's set it to, okay, so let's say 3.8 times 6. That's 22.8. 3.8 is pretty safe.
But that gives you time to like get back.
Yeah, that's true. 3.8, okay, so 3.8 times 6 is going to be 22.8. So then you can set that to 22.8. That might be a little early, but we'll find out.
I know, but I think it's a
and
good
then just
starting
put
point.
it to voice, okay? Not voice and vibrate. Then we'll have our timer also set for 3 minutes with a tone and vibrate warning at 3. Now I could hear it, guys. I don't know if you could because I had this turned down a little bit low. I'm actually going to turn that up a little bit more. I normally,
Yeah, I didn't hear
she
it.
interrupts me a lot when I'm
Yeah.
talking, so it's surprisingly distracting when you're flying and talking and have a camera crew involved and that thing starts talking.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we needed on that first flight, was a distraction. So camera crew, if you will.
Yep.
We are going to reset and come right back. So remember, the battery is in front of the CG pretty far on this airplane. So it's unfortunate that many times with jets like this, you're going to end up having the battery pack in front of the CG, which means you got to really cheat it back a lot. The 4000 was here, but I felt like we could probably handle it being a little bit further forward. I'm still going to err on the safe side and just push it back pretty much where I can get it. This is going to stop it from sliding forward, and then I'm going to depend on this one to hold it down. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and plug this in. So you can hear it said flight pack 10.0 volts. That's because sometimes you get that inrush current and it doesn't quite make it at the first sample. Now it's still beeping. Look at the ailerons, or I guess those, yeah. Whatever they are. The things on the trailing edge of the wing. Okay. So I'm going to push this in here. Feels like I could tighten that up. One thing I did figure out on my Maiden, well, I figured it out before we did our Maiden, is that these packs work good. You push down, the oleo on the front is real soft, okay? Then you can really torque down on those straps, which is nice. And I just basically want to get that back pretty far like this, okay? The XT90 works fine with the IC5s so far. Camera crew, would you mind holding that for me? Mm-hmm. We're going to check the CG, and then we're going to put her back in the sky. We have our markings on the wing here. One of them kind of intersects the black line. That's a decoration. Okay, let's cycle the gear. Do you know which one's the gear, camera crew?
This one,
it's
right?
A, yeah. I want to make sure they go. Yeah, I got to get that adjusted real quick. Because you see how it didn't quite go in? Go ahead and open them. Okay, so I got to take a look at that real quick because I don't want it to not close when we're in the air. So we'll pause and I'll show you what we did.
Okay.
Okay, so I just kind of pull it over a little bit and everything's fine. So I think we're in a back taxi. The wind is kind of lulled down a little bit. So we'll take off the other direction this time too. 3-minute flight time. Actually, I take it back. We'll get reset. I don't want to waste battery on back taxi.
Okay. Okay.
Ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, so guys, we're gonna turn up Expo just a little bit on the mode that we're in right now. But honestly, just a little. Okay. And then I'm going to go to my top setting and I'll kick that up one more notch. And then I'm going to kick the bottom setting down appropriately. So this will be like 25 or 30. We'll do 30 and then we'll do 10 on each of them. So what that does for us is our low setting is 10, then 15 for flight, and then 20 for ailerons. Then, excuse me, then 30 with the rate drop down to 90. So that's what we're going to take off for our second flight. See? And then the rudder's more. Now, why more on the rudder? Once you get on the ground, this thing handles great on the ground, but if it's gonna pull you off your path, then that's not good. So, all right, here we go. We're gonna try to take off the other way, or, well, there's the wind again. I guess we'll reset and come right back down there. All right, so we're on a 5000 6S 50C. We got a 3-minute flight time. That's a Gen 2 pack, by the way. We've got one wheel pulled off the edge of the runway to hold it in place. Throttle cuts off, no takeoff flaps this time. Full throttle. And there she goes, gear going up. Okay, about 50% throttle there. I just want to see how it relaxes. Guys, this plane is actually surprisingly easy to fly. I'm kind of almost like hands off right now. Figurative. I'm getting voltage warnings right now because I'm railing on it. Sorry. So I've got the British woman telling me my voltage here.
Flight pack 22.6 volts. Flight pack 22.7 volts.
Into the sun, of course. Oh, that was cool. Between. Trade sides. 22.3 now, out of the throttle. Going to the vampire killing zone. We're gonna see if we can kiss the tree again. Full throttle with the wind down the runway. Fairly well behaved plane, guys, I gotta say. I'm surprised. There's a little bit of oscillation there, I noticed. Okay, gear coming down, let's hope. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Into the throttle, 15%. Do not be afraid of using throttle with the jet, guys. You need throttle when you bail on a landing. Gear going back down. This will be a bit of a practice. Okay, out of the gear. Okay, we're landing this time.
Okay.
That's my timer. Woo-hoo! I am just letting it go. I did not fight it that time, and it paid dividends. When she starts talking like that, it stresses you out as a pilot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
No, I agree.
It's really, really distracting. So it's probably good for you guys, but I wanted you to learn two things from my experience there. One, this thing has a pretty fair amount of rollout. Now, I'm not really doing an amazing job landing it because this plane is going to take some practice, I can tell. It flies a little different than any plane I've flown before. With the canards, things just pitch a lot different. But boy, you can get in there and just flip it anytime you want, which is really cool. And yet you maintain control, which is very strange. Typically the elevator gets into washout when you make a like a high alpha maneuver like that. And so the air stops going over the control surface. So you sort of lose control for a second in a plane with an elevator that's way back there. But on this plane, it stays out front and you keep control of it, which is really cool. So there's only certain times where you kind of get that washout effect And I didn't experience them because I wasn't trying to fly upside down doing stupid things. I did fly upside down over here on the first pack. Now that being said also, let's see what our actual voltage is. Looks like our voltage is at 23 volts, which of course ain't gonna last. Now the other thing I think we've demonstrated here, that 23 volts isn't gonna last because I'm not gonna wail on it right now. So if you were to wail on that thing right now, it would sag really bad, quick. So I would say two things we've learned. First of all, the 5000 handles it just fine. I feel like there could be just a little bit of waggle from the rudder. So what I'm gonna do is let's jump into the forward programming. I might be too far away to do that. Oh, throttle cut is on. So from forward programming, gyro settings, AS3X, AS3X gains. Okay, so I wanna go to yaw, and I wanna turn that down to 50. And then the pitch, let's just go down just a hair. And the roll, I think it's actually okay. We'll go down just a hair, 35. Okay, so that's not a big change. And I didn't touch in monitor mode. Oh, geez, look at that. That's so cool. I didn't touch any of that. See, I had that right in the middle. So I could have also just turned up or down the gain because I was really honestly engulfed in that flight experience. I was really into it and I wasn't thinking about what type of settings to make changes on. And you will find yourself when you really get into a plane, I can tell you this plane is cool. It's really fun. It's kind of a challenge in that it's not like the easiest. It's definitely not a beginner plane. Don't even ask. It's not. It's not, okay?
It's not a second plane.
If you start with this plane, you're gonna crash it. It's gonna be a bad experience. You will crash it. It's gonna be bad. Don't get it for the first plane. Now, that being said, it's not the hardest plane I've flown either, but I would say that compared to the F-18, it's probably in that realm is kind of where I would put it, which is one of the tougher planes to fly. It glides great. It's kind of hands-free when you're just going straight, but I feel like it lands fast, but the landing gear are very well put together. And I think we've demonstrated that it works on the grass. If you have a well-manicured field, it's gonna be way better than this stuff. This is like prairie grass here.
Yeah.
Now that is sod. If you had sod, then you'd be totally fine. But this is
not.
prairie grass. You see these big clumps of grass like
Yeah.
this? Compared to my foot, it's a huge, big high point. And then you've got Kentucky blue here, which is small. It doesn't have very much to it, but this big fescue like this.
Yep.
And then if you get the fescue that's the prairie grass fescue, which is way even bigger, it's probably doubly as big, then you have a lot up and down. Once this is totally full and I start mowing it a few times during the season, I think it'll be a lot better on a plane like this. But those wheels have great bearings. The taxiing is amazing. I really want to taxi it right now, but I'm just sort of afraid of wearing and tearing those landing gear bogies. I already had that one mount issue because I came in and basically went across my runway into the ditch over here. You'll notice I didn't tip over this time. I resisted the temptation to correct it into the center of the runway. I didn't care. I said, it's good enough. So I'm just gonna take what I got and I'm just gonna let it, the natural order of things happen. Because if I would have gone straight out, there's a bigger hill and it may have just gone out and slowed down anyway. I figured this way it would help slow it down when it got into the taller grass. So every time I fly a big jet, it reminds me of the SU-30. We put that down and we rolled all the way down the field over there. So basically,
Way down the end there.
yeah, basically, I think we're good with this. I think this plane, I would definitely recommend it to an intermediate to experienced pilot. And I would definitely say, if you're looking at getting this plane for yourself, definitely don't order it if you're a brand new pilot. The F-15 is a much better option. It's much easier, it's a lot cheaper. It flies on smaller packs, which means it's cheaper to buy and it's cheaper to charge than this thing. But even better would be the Habu. If you just can't live without an EDF, electric ducted fan, so like a jet, then you could do the Habu, and you can actually do that as a beginner. It could be your first plane, legitimately. It's probably not the best choice, but it's definitely within the realm of possibility. If you have a little bit of skill just on the sticks with the simulator, you can fly a Habu, and with safe. Now, you can also set safe up on this, but I would still implore you, it is not gonna be a beginner plane. So it's too technically challenging. And I need some more flying time on it. I need more time on the sticks because I don't feel comfortable with it yet. And plus the confused winds right now are just enough. It's like going from nothing to about 5. It's just enough to really kind of set it off course. If it was dead calm, man, that thing would look so good. It would be just rock solid. I think the S3X was working great. The tweaks we made will improve things, but I don't think it's going to totally stop the waggle. I think that the nature of this plane is that it's always going to have a little bit of that. And you will have that on fast jets. I've noticed that. It's pretty common. The Futura is one that does not demonstrate that at all. It's always solid, just looks like it's gliding through glass, even if there's like a 50-mile-an-hour crosswind. Granted, you're going 110 miles an hour or better. So speed is always relative to the wind. So this thing is not an overly fast plane, but it has presence when you come through a spot like this. It looks cool. And that yellow looks really cool, especially up against the blue and against the trees that don't have any leaves on them yet. Just love this plane. Guys, check the links in the description below. We're sporting the into the AM. If you want to help support us, that's one way you can do it. If you're not really into spending $600 on a plane today, you can also buy a cheaper plane if you want, because that'd be good too. But into the AM, we've been wearing this coat. It's been good. It's the aviator coat, so that makes sense for somebody flying radio-controlled airplanes. And obviously the NX6 was great and is great, and we're going to be showcasing it again in the future, possibly simultaneously with the NX8. But the NX8 has been good so far. We've done it for 2 planes. We actually have to film a Maiden on another plane. We've had horrible weather for like the last month. So we are going to showcase this more and often. It does come with a lanyard, something that the NX6 didn't. I used my lanyard from the DX18. So really happy to see that. It did come with a smaller pack. I have since switched the 6,000 milliamp hour pack into this, which is bigger. If you have problems with your battery needing to be charged about every time you go to the flying field, which is super easy because it's a micro USB now, so that's super easy. If you do have problems with that, get yourself this battery. I think it goes for around 30 bucks, which is a lot, I realize. But the thing is, you know, if you're not into charging it every time, that will solve that problem, okay? So just take my word for it. You probably want to get the bigger pack. If you're doing an NX6 even, they chew through batteries pretty quick. So very happy with the display. Haven't had a lick of problems with the displays. The Wi-Fi's worked really nice. They have the firmware updates available for this. Went super smooth. Even with our crappy internet, which we have satellite internet here because we're out in the boonies. And we're going to be getting Starlink soon.
Starlink.
Which is going to be awesome.
No one,
it's going to
no
change
one
our
in our
lives.
house is excited about it at all.
Yes, we are super excited. So if you guys want to help support us, like I said, check the links in the description below. I know you guys are probably thinking there's another plane that rhymes with Rako. So if you're thinking about raking your yard lots like we are, don't worry, we have it. We'll review it as soon as we can. Please stop asking, because it hurts my soul every time you ask, because I can't do anything about it and I want to. And we're just respecting the requirements that were put in front of us, and we really want to help support the people that brought us these things. So that's all I'm going to say. If you guys want to support us in the meantime, just go to the links. You can follow and buy any item you want anytime on Horizon Hobby, Tower Hobbies, the Magic Home, which is for furniture like cat trees, you know, Into the AM, Bitco Hobby, you know, Banggood, Amazon, whatever. So you can always buy that stuff anytime you want. You don't have to follow a direct link. Just go to the master link. But in the meantime, we are respecting the wishes of the people that support us for a few more weeks. And it's going to be a very painful few more weeks because I'm going to get the question another 10,000 times. And it's going to remind me every time. But we do have it. We are going to be looking at it, and we are going to love it. And we are going to bring that to you just as soon as we possibly can. The camera crew is super excited about that one.
Super.
Super excited. So without further ado, the Rafale, awesome. 2 thumbs up, definitely a challenge. Get one, stick around. We're gonna unbox, build, and radio setup right now. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Into the AM. We've been wearing these shirts. They've been working out good. Now that you know, you can go buy them. Follow the link in the description below. It's a rainy day today. It's been rainy all day, and I can think of nothing better to do on a rainy day. Well, okay, I can think of nothing better than this. We're gonna do it right now. What is this thing, camera crew?
This is the Rafale.
Rafale. Is that what the dogs make? The noise they make? Why can't planes have more normal names that are spelled phonetically? Ooh, yes.
Ooh,
Look at this. Wait, I can't use that. That is beautiful. I can't wait to see this thing in the air. It's gonna be so cool.
That is.
My camera crew was not aware of what this plane was, and she was making strange faces when I opened it, in a good way.
What?
She didn't know what this plane was.
It doesn't look like the pictures from when I Googled it to figure out how to say.
To figuring out how to
The
say
pronunciation.
Rafale.
Yeah. Well, it's
okay.
French. If you would have told me it was French, I probably could have figured it out. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Like that.
I don't know if it's a twin or if it's just got one, but this is an FMS, okay?
80
So
millimeter.
Is this a V2? Oh, it's an 80 millimeter?
It
Awesome.
does, well, it says reflex
80 millimeter
V2.
plug and play. That is so sweet. There's LEDs on it already. Those retracts look awesome. I do not think we're gonna be putting the drop tanks on there. I'm not sure yet. Because, well, maybe we'll do some of the drop tanks. I just think there's a lot of drop tanks. There's a lot of big things hanging down.
It's upside. No, your box is upside down. But I didn't want to interrupt.
Is this
your
better?
Comment.
About big ones hanging down? There's 3 of them though, which is very weird. It just reminds me of Total Recall. All right, so everybody, we're gonna open this thing right now. Both of them actually. Total Recall and the remake. All right, here we go, guys. Open it up. This must be packaged by Horizon Hobby.
You need some help.
I could really use some help, but I'm not gonna ask because the camera crew's busy holding the camera and pointing and laughing.
Yeah.
So I need to be a little bit careful because we have food on the stove and
don't-
open flames.
Don't put your box on the stove.
Yeah, so I don't want to put my box on the stove. 3280, 2100 kV is the, that's not English. I'm looking for English. I just noticed the size of the motor and that's still
Whoa,
not
no,
English.
no.
Goodness
Right here.
gracious.
On the back.
Because I know somebody's gonna ask me this. 3280, 2100 kV Platinum Edition in-rudder motor with high performance 100 amp ESC. Awesome. These inboard LEDs, by the way, the only reason I like inboard LEDs like that is because there are going to be missiles on the missile pods, and that usually blocks the LEDs on the outside. I mean, obviously that's a skill feature, so it's not like they're doing it because, you know, they want to please Brian. Oh yes, there's also LEDs on the missile pods.
What is this thing? Is it
That's a
going
refueling spout.
snorkeling?
It's not snorkeling, but that was cute. Okay, so we're gonna build this thing right now and it's gonna be amazing. But before we build it, we have to take it out of the package. Just so you guys know what we're planning on doing with this, we're gonna use the AR637T. I don't think I need to use an 8-channel on this, so I'm gonna go with this. We have a couple 8-channel receivers as well. And just so you guys know, if you didn't see the P51 video that we did where we reviewed this, this is the NX8. It is super duper similar to the NX6. It's about 40 bucks more as it sits right now. Who knows, if you're watching this video in like 5 years, it could be more, it could be less, I don't know. It's got this additional knob here. It's got an additional switch here, and it's got additional trim buttons here. Beyond that, most of the rest of the actual features are exactly the same. It's still got the Wi-Fi, still has the SD card, still has all the trainer stuff. I actually took the bigger 6,000 milliamp hour pack out of the NX6 and I put it in here, and I put the smaller pack in the NX6. So we did review that and we showed a lot in detail. So if you want to see more about it, go for it. You can just watch that. We're not going to necessarily link to it, but it should be in very recent history. So I'm just going to let you guys find that on your own. By the way, if you're navigating my channel, you're trying to find something, we have literally thousands of videos. It's hard for me to find stuff, and I know what's on there. So here's the thing. Remember, we have playlists for every plane, and then as of late, we may only have 1 or 2 videos for each plane. But if you do a word search on my channel, click on my face icon, and then go to the search tab and just type the name of what you're looking for, and you'll find it. Also, at the end of the videos, if you're watching all the way to the end, and you've been there for 5 hours, and you're like, when is this thing gonna be over? Then what you can do is you can click on the end screens. I usually have playlists that are relevant, and that way you've got something to click on.
And then you started doing a playlist with like all of the FMS planes and stuff, right? So if you want to
Yep.
see what all we've done that's FMS or whatever.
Or Banggood,
Yeah.
you know, that sort of thing. You know, we've been trying to kind of make it easier for you guys to navigate because we realize it is kind of hard to find stuff from time to time. And a lot of you are new to the channel, so we're trying to help facilitate that as much as we can without undermining the relationships we've had with many of these people for years now.
And you try and keep your wording and stuff the same.
Very consistent.
So
it's searchable.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be unfindable stuff because what's the point? This is an FMS manual, but it looks like this one might have been retailored possibly. No, that's an FMS manual.
No, that's pretty similar to the other ones.
FMS has good manuals.
Yeah.
They usually have good manuals. There's not much Chinglish in there, so that's
No,
always good.
They're not quite a regular like E-Flight one.
Yeah, they're not as good
do
as
have your
E-Flight.
specs
E-Flight would be
there.
probably the easiest stuff. And I know some of you guys are going to hate on that, but too bad. I like E-Flight the best because they are very well they do a great job of refining what would be an otherwise good FMS model. And I know you guys are not, you know, dumb. You realize that a lot of the FMS that they acquired through the Tower Hobbies acquisition have been re-released and they're using some of the same molds. Everybody knows that. It's not like anybody's trying to hide that. But the whole point is when you get an E-Flight one, it's going to be the most refined. They've dumped a ton of money into those planes. So, like for instance, the A10, best A10 I've flown, okay? And I'm not talking about the UMX, that one's awesome too, but I am talking about the 1.1 meter. That thing is phenomenal. And it'll go over 100 miles an hour. This is beautiful.
Wow.
Look at that, I love this pod here. I love that they got the linkage coming out so you can barely see it. Very cool. The drop tank will block this one, which is cool. There's your LED pass through.
Nice.
Looks like without the missiles on there, you'll be able to see a lot, which is not maybe so great. I love the high contrast. This livery is very different, but I love that it's high contrast. A little bit unfortunate that it's blue on the bottom because blue blends with skies. One of my longtime subscribers always complains every time he sees a blue plane, so, which is often. So,
Yeah, there's a
these
lot.
wings are not very big either.
No.
Look at that. Isn't that crazy? That's because the body is going to help produce some of the lift, just like it would on a real one, which is so cool. And that's one of the things I love so much about radio-controlled airplanes is just the way that they relate to a real plane. Okay, so far, so good. You see the packaging is really great. Haven't had any issues. Look at this, though. This is not necessarily good. Oh, that's plastic. So I thought the tape was stuck to foam, and I thought, yeah, that's not good. This is plastic. That's the refilling nozzle, the refueling nozzle. I believe that's a refueling nozzle, but I guess it's possible maybe it isn't. Maybe that's like a radar or something.
I'm sure
I
somebody
guess
will tell us.
somebody will tell me that I'm so wrong soon enough. Missiles, really cool. I love that ordnance comes with most of these planes. I'll be honest with you. I don't fly with ordnance often because I feel like it really, it just hampers the performance of the planes a lot. So this,
Okay, dumb question.
Yeah.
Would it in real life?
yes.
I mean, it's going to make an impact on.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of the plane is to deliver the weapons
Right.
into the enemy and blow
They
them
can't
up.
just decide to not have ordnance
They're like,
that day.
you know, it's not, well, I mean, what's the point of spending, you know, a few $100,000 on one flight if you can't blow something up?
Well, I mean,
Do you know that when they land these planes, they are dumping thousands of pounds of fuel if they're landing on carriers? Of course, I don't know if they land this on carriers. Oh, yes. That is so
oh my
cool.
goodness.
Okay, this plane, it just seems like you're getting so much in this package. It's not a very big package. And look at this, it goes right to the end. It's like a half an inch from the end of the box. That's crazy. And this is why you're gonna find that many times on these jets, okay, don't forget your nut and bolt sack. It is stuck with a magnet in there. Very good idea, whoever packaged that. That's
Yeah.
really cool. And I like that this is a symmetrical nose. It's almost symmetrical. So when you crash into a tree and things like that, it might be easier to make it look good again. This is just gorgeous, guys.
Good to know.
Look at the canopy. That is awesome. This is where the canards go, which is so cool. Quick release, not sticky, that's good. Is that got a light in it? There's a hole, but I don't see a light. That's kind of weird. I wonder where that is. Maybe there's an anti-crash beacon option. But look at the wings. They have ports to receive. Oh, that is so good. And then there's a brass nut zert that's molded into the plastic there. Very heavy duty. Oh man, look at the belly of this beast. Gorgeous. Got a cheater here, but it's not huge. That's always nice. It's gonna sound really good. 80mm EDFs generally sound like turbines. Of course, they're not gonna be, you know, as powerful. I just love the way this looks. It's so pretty.
The gear door match.
Yeah,
well.
the color
blue
match
is
is nice. It's a little bit more flat, but the color is a dead ringer. It's very close.
It
And
looks
then look
even
at
more
all
on camera. You can.
these things, the little antennas and things like this. That is so cool. And then look at the antenna, or not the antenna, look at the cockpit. We've got instrument clusters in here. And then look at the ribbing on the back of this. I just love that they're doing that. And anytime that they put a vent in there, it makes me smile because you really need a vent in there or they will fog up like instantaneously. And there's a vent up front too, which is good. Always good to get some airflow. Let's just look inside while we've got it. Oh yeah, huge room. Okay, XT90. By the way, real quick, we'll pause on this for just a second. Obviously, this is a plug and fly, so we have to plug in our own receiver, which we already talked about for a quick second. But XT90s are going to be compatible with G2 packs just fine, okay? So we'll just show you. This is an IC5, okay? So just look, see, watch. Boom! Goes in just fine. It's actually pretty easy to plug in, a little bit easier than plugging into another IC5 actually, which is ironic. But of course, you're not gonna get your data jack, okay? So because there's no data jack, you're not gonna get all the telemetry that you would from a smart pack through an Avian ESC. So I'm not sure, this one obviously doesn't have an Avian ESC because it is not, of course, an E-Flight product. You could add that at your leisure. So that was a Gen 2 7000 6S. I don't even know what battery we're gonna use yet. I just grabbed what was the first one I could see. So if you look up here, they have taped the lead. And so that's gonna be for the rudder, obviously. Let's give them a shot inside the tailpipe. These things are thin, okay? So just be aware of that, be careful. See that? But it's nice because when that drags, that's not gonna change color, okay?
Yeah.
So many times when you drag on a landing, because everybody wants to flare their jets, you almost always end up dragging the tail at some point. Even the best pilots are gonna do it because you're gonna try to draw it out a little bit too long or a little bit too hard or get a gust of wind. This is gonna not change color as bad as if it were a piece of foam. So that's a very good thing. Plus, of course, you could tear that off and redo it, which is nice. Love the details, cheaters up top and on the bottom, which is really good for an EDF like this. Okay, so let's lay this down. Won't even probably need a plank stand for it because it's just really easy to do. Okay, so this is maybe not so good. I don't like it when I see them tweaked like that. Beautiful hinge. It's a pinch hinge, but it's gotta be reinforced. Look at the ball joint. That's beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna try to force this over. That's not a very big servo. It's a 9-gram servo. Ooh, doesn't sound very good. Feels almost like it's trapped. See that? Oh, there it goes. Okay, whew, that was kind of scary. If you ever get a servo that's tweaked out of alignment, the best thing you can do is energize the servo so it goes to home position to the center and not what I just did there. Okay, so this is awesome. I just love the decals. The paint matches really close to the decal. That's nice. And then look, these little mold releases are super small and very few, but then look at all the rivets and stuff. Just absolutely gorgeous. Just love the way there's a reinforcement right here. You can tell there's some sort of a carbon fiber or possibly a fiberglass spar that goes through. You can tell from these little plastic cutaways, you would see more, except they're covered by the decal. And I don't know what this, if this is radar or if that's some sort of an alarm or what, but anybody who knows more about the, what is this thing called?
Rafale.
The Rafale? Rafale.
Rafale.
Then you can answer for me. Some of these planes, it's so weird, and I've said this on a couple of different videos. As we've gotten into this hobby deeper and more intensely, my appreciation for aircraft has changed. Canards, they're so cute. The canards, very high visibility. I love that.
Do they move?
They're functioning canards.
cool.
They are the elevator. It's the same thing an elevator would do. And then the ailerons back here. But on a real warbird, what would happen is these would act as an elevator and they would act as ailerons. as well as this would be an aileron and flap, and then the leading edge would also have a slat that would droop, okay? Wow. So, and they all work, it's all computerized, and so if they do some big high alpha maneuver, then the wing shape goes from this to this, and it creates a different angle of attack. It just opens up all sorts of different maneuvering capabilities on these planes.
So does really having those canards up front change drastically the way that you fly versus having an elevator that's on the back?
It changes the pitch just like it would if it was on the back, but sometimes they pivot a little bit different. So, I mean, it just feels different to fly, but I'm very excited to experience it. I have flown a couple of planes that have canards, but I can't think of them offhand. And typically the canards I was flying before were, oh, those are beautiful. Look at that. They've got a decal right here, so it's a different color right there. Beautiful missiles. I really like that. These are gonna be installed. I will fly this ordnance. I'm not gonna necessarily fly the ordnance on the bottom. There are 3 drop tanks on this thing, and they are big. Look how huge this is.
Cow.
Yeah, they're gigantic. Well packaged, by the way. They're not magnetically attached or anything like that. I'm really impressed with this packaging. It's been really good today.
They're really detailed.
Yeah, they are. They both have stickers on the outside. The inboard portion, of course, is not going to be as detailed. Now, I'll probably put those on just so you guys can see what it looks like, but I'm not going to fly with them. I don't have any interest in flying with the side ones. I do kind of like the middle one. We're probably going to fly with the middle one, I'm thinking, which is cool. All right, so that's everything. I think that's all the pieces. Does it look like everything's
Just a little teeny bag of screws?
Yeah, which is awesome. I think it's just 4 screws is all we need. And then there's going to be some hardware for the canards, but I'm not sure exactly how that works. Oh, wow, that is so cool. Show the people at home this. Because I was trying to figure out where's the servo on this thing. There isn't a servo on it. The servo's inside here and here, respectively.
I wondered what that was when you were looking in there.
And look, serviceability. There's screws. You can take the screws out. You know, it's so funny, the things that excite me about this hobby, because we've been burned so many times by so many crappy models that are still, you know, really good when they were released like 5 years ago. But the thing is, nowadays, they're really starting to do some of these details that we have been griping about constantly, like, oh yeah, thanks for gluing that servo in an inaccessible area and then sending it dead on arrival. Right. You know, we've been fortunate. We've only had that happen a few times to us, unless it's a dynamo. Okay, so without further ado, we're gonna clean up and we'll come back with the build portion. All right, so we're finishing the Rafale. We're gonna build the wings first. So in my best estimation, this would be the smart thing to do. Just go ahead and get these slid on here because it's super easy to do when you have full control. They just clip in there like every other ordnance package you've ever installed on a plane and then slide backward. These things are sometimes a little bit tricky to get on because they aren't always super well trimmed. And because the control surfaces are back here, it's a little hard to find a place to grab onto. So I just want to be able to slide these on first. Okay, so there they're on. Beautiful fit, looks really nice. Okay, very cool. I'm gonna remember not to ram this in. Okay, I gotta do that first. I always forget that. I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Seems like it'd be kind of on the top of the mind, but
I usually forget that.
Yeah, get in there. Okay, so that's in. By the way, the instruction manual suggested that an experienced builder can do this entire build process in 5 minutes.
So we must really be.
We're really bad. I was gonna say, I'm not sure if maybe like that's if it was time lapsed because it takes a lot longer than that to open the box. Or maybe they're just saying like once you have it assembled, they're probably not talking about the ordnance and everything. But they're saying you can do it in 5 minutes and I'm saying no, probably not.
They also recommend not to lick the model or put any parts of it in your mouth.
What's the fun in that?
So.
Oh, okay, that was scary. I was envisioning this slicing my hand up. Okay, so we need to put in the wing spar here. So we're just gonna slide that through. This really is gonna be a pretty fast install from what I can tell. And it is really well put together. Guys, when I give gushing reviews, it's not because I owe anybody anything, but I just want you guys to know When I gush about planes, it's because I love them. Sometimes I gush about them and then like something happens halfway through the build and I hate them all of a sudden. But generally speaking, I like the planes we do a lot. Look at this. This is so cool. See this? The control surface mates into this. See that?
Oh, nice.
That is so cool. And then did you notice that that tapers up? It gets thicker.
Oh.
That is so cool. Just these are the types of details that you get anymore. And people complain about foam planes, and it's like, why would you complain? They're so awesome. Like this is if I was a kid, it would have been bad. I would have never saved any money. I would have probably been homeless, but I would have had a ton of radio controlled airplanes. So
Well, I guess I should be glad that.
look how nice that fit.
I know.
I didn't even
that's
have to
amazing.
I had a harder time putting the missiles on.
I know.
It's
You need
pretty big.
the shorter of the 2 screws.
Let's
4
show
of
the
them.
people at home. Okay, so there's set screws here.
Yep.
Okay, the set screws look like they might be a different size. They are, okay? There's these ones, okay? Then there's these ones. You see how these are a little bit shorter? And it looks like there is a total of 3 long and 4 short. Excuse me, 5 short. So they did give us the typical 1 extra, and they gave us 1 extra of that as well, okay? So those are the set screws that work for the canards as I understand it. Very, very, very good fit on the wing in continuance of the gushing review. Okay, so good. Oh, speaking of gushing reviews, folks, some of you have been asking about other planes that have been released recently and that are big. They might be red. I don't know. I can't speak any more about it. But all I can say is, yes, we're doing it. No, we can't do it yet. So if you're watching this and you're disappointed, I'm sorry, because this plane is awesome. There
It is awesome.
plenty to look forward to.
Hold on, the probe fell on the ground.
There could be multiple meters of fun coming up. That's how I measure all my fun. Meters,
That's what she said.
fractional meters. The truth comes out. Not in this video, though. I mean,
No.
oh my goodness, get in there. Oh man, I'm having flashbacks to all the dynoms we've ever built. There we go. That was slightly easier than the solution on dynam. So that being said,
You only have 12 seconds left before it.
before I hit the 5 minutes,
Yeah.
dang it. Okay, so evidently they were using an impact.
They
okay.
didn't.
Which, side note, don't use an impact, in
They
case you were
didn't
wondering.
account for the Brian Phillips factor.
Oh, the blathering. Yeah, they did not.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the plugs. This one's pretty short, so be careful. You know, if it's so short, you might lose it.
Could have given me a little extra length on there, couldn't they?
Nah, it's actually good because it's hard to get rid of the extra length here. Orange to orange, red to red, brown to brown. If you don't line up the red to red, you're really, really, really bad at building these because they're in
It's
the
going to
center.
take you way longer than 5 minutes.
They're in the center. Oh, look, it unplugged! So maybe you have to tuck that in first and then make your connection. Okay, so the yellow is at the top. Ooh, that's going to be tricky. That's going to add to the 5 minutes pretty bad. Okay, so I'm just looking. Yep, we're lined up correctly. Let's see if this goes down in here correctly. Oh man, there's tons of extra room in there. I was expecting that to be a huge fiasco. Okay, so what length are those supposed to be?
The 20 millimeter, the longer ones.
So the longer
2 of
ones.
them.
We're almost out of screws. Is that not just incredible?
I love FMS planes.
Yeah, so, well, here's the thing though.
Wait, this side.
About FMS planes. I mean, if you stick it in the wrong side, you're asking for
You're
trouble.
going to know.
Yeah. But the thing I can say about FMS planes is that we have been very pleasantly surprised by how well they've gone together. And they're just really solid. Now, if you pair them up with a high quality Spectrum receiver or whatever it is you guys love, then they are very good flying planes. I have been super, super impressed. We were kind of expecting when we started doing the FMS reviews that we were going to run into some different Hobby King-esque moments. We have not had a one. They have all been exceptional builds. They've been very good planes. Now, that being said, when you put an FMS next to an E-flite product, I feel like the E-flite product is usually a little bit easier to do because it's going to have the Safe Select already installed. You don't even have to hook up the wires except for maybe a wing. And beyond that, we've been just really, really, really happy with them. So, and a lot of the FMSs too, you know, the other competitive brands' defense have been V2s or V3s or like V3.5s. So we've been able to benefit from the experience of all the different years. I'm sticking this. This is a refueling probe, by the way. We checked into the probe.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if it clicks in there or if it just slides back. Yeah, it just slides back and it's kind of a pressure fit. That is beautiful, by the way. I'm putting the nose cone on. I can't wait any longer.
That's gonna.
That is so sweet.
If you transport your planes, watch out for your probe.
Yeah, don't stick your probe where you don't want it. So
No.
just be careful. You could have problems. There is a flat on both of these canard mounts here. And so our next step is we're gonna have to get out the tools that Tom got me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize there were different sizes.
Yeah, the set screws are a little bit smaller.
Yep.
We were using a 2mm drive for all of the rest of the screws. So these sets are probably 1.3 millimeters. Nope, sorry folks, 1.5 maybe? Yeah, 1.5 millimeters. Okay, so that's gonna get you in there.
And where are those itty bitty things going?
They're called sets, set screws. They go into here, like this.
Oh.
Yeah, and then that's what holds on to the shaft.
Okay.
There's a flat. Come over here and feel this right here. It's milled. You feel it?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I'm going to actually get these both started so I don't lose the set screw because they're so dinky. Okay, and then I'm just going to get that started like this so it doesn't shoot out into the abyss of the living room or kitchen floor. Okay, now this is the first time I've been in a predicament where I'm not sure exactly how to hold the plane. So I think I'm gonna set it on the couch.
Okay.
Oh, that thing is so beautiful. It's really not too heavy for being a jet. Usually jets are quite heavy. And I feel like this one is pretty well refined. They must have just kept everything really light because I'm just thinking of like the F-18. That was a heavy plane. It still is a heavy plane. Or like the Su-30, that was a really heavy plane. Feels like it's not all the way in.
Yep,
there we
there.
go. So I don't know if you're supposed to push it tight or just... Okay, so we're gonna get that in there. I'm torquing that down like crazy. That feels pretty good and beautiful, beautiful. The blue on blue is just gorgeous. Loving the way this thing is going together. I can't wait to see the gear. I was a little nervous because it looked like the nose gear might be a little bit wonky from the box pictures, the artwork. Yeah, it looked like maybe it had a weird adapter. It's kind of a long gear. The bogey is long. So the thing that sticks down. Wow, that is so gorgeous. All right, I gotta pick it up. I can't wait. Oh yes, that thing is so cool. Wow, that is gonna look so sweet. Coming down the runway at like Mach 7.
Very striking.
It won't be Mach 7. That's just a hilarious joke, folks. Do you like it?
It's very cool. I do like it.
Okay, I'm excited. Okay, cool. So we technically have this thing built already. The
Yeah.
only thing we have to do is a receiver now.
Well, are you doing any other ordnance?
I'm not going to do any
Yet.
ordnance right now for the simple fact that I would like to have it flat. And
That's
right now,
fine.
this is the flat attitude I want to be when I set up the receiver.
Okay.
Because as you guys know from the AR637T, when we go into forward programming and everything, I want it to initiate level. And it just seems to give us good results. We haven't run into problems. We do need
Okay.
to mark. Wow, that's nice. Look at that.
Yeah, I know.
What is that? Is there a controller in there?
I don't know.
So there's a board in there somewhere. I didn't see it. Is there an axis somewhere that they tell you it's located at? Yeah, it's back here. You can't even tell it's there. I wonder how you get to it. Is there like an access panel right there?
But are you supposed to get to it?
Well, I don't necessarily need to get to it, but I just want you guys to be aware that there is
That it's
a
there.
mixing, it's called a mixing board. But in that case, that means you don't even have to run one wire. I was gonna say, it felt like we were missing steps, but we're not missing steps, we just don't have to do them.
Do you want to mark the CG?
Yes, I do. And
And
we can't
don't
really
have
test
to
that yet.
hook up any control horns or anything?
I don't think so. No. Okay, so the CG. Let's talk about the CG.
110 to 130 millimeters
110 to 130, so I gotta do this in double measurements.
from the leading edge of the main wing as shown with the battery pack installed.
Okay, let me see. So 110 to 130. So 110 to 130. So this would be 130 right here. So
Yeah,
wait,
it's on.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's 13.
Would
So
be
110 would be 110, and then 130. That seems bigger than what they're showing there, because that range is small. That's a 20 millimeter. Yeah, that's 20 millimeters.
Yeah.
Okay, it just looks kind of. Where do they say that the wing starts? They're saying like where the wing slides out from the actual assembly wing,
Okay.
not from the fuse that's part of the wing shape. Okay, so I'm going to 110 millimeters. Now this plane's going to test upside down, I believe, for CG. So I'm just going to come back here and see if we have a distinct mark already, and we don't. So I'm just going to use this black marker because it's going to kind of look similar to the finish. And this plane is beautiful enough, I don't really want to make marks all over it, but we're going to have to make marks all over it for CG reasons. Boy, I could have done a better job of making a clean mark. So there's one CG mark. Okay, and then I'm going to measure from there and just verify. Oops. World's crappiest calipers here, folks. Oh no, I'm going to hit that black spot, aren't I?
Ooh, yeah. Looks like it.
Yeah, I'm right on that black spot, so I'll have to. I'm going just past this plastic here where the wings join to the fuse or the body. I don't know if that's technically the fuse, it's technically the wing, I think. So that's the range. That's a huge range. Okay, so we're going to 130 for the first one over here because I'm already set to it.
Hopefully that means it won't be hugely.
Sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I'm going to try to get this at the same spot. So like where that black line sort of intersects. Okay, then I'm going to go back to the 110.
Yep.
Okay, so 110 puts it right there. Okay, cool. So I should be able to feel that. And yes, you can definitely see the dots from a distance, but that's okay. I would rather be able to find the CG mark and know that we're consistently within the CG range, especially on a beautiful plane like this. This is gorgeous. Okay, so what's the next step? We need to do radio setup next?
Yeah.
Or are we going to go ahead and talk
receiver.
about batteries for a minute, because we do have access to checking the CG before we even do the receiver. Except the receiver, yeah, it doesn't weigh much of anything. I don't think it's going to really impact. We're going to use 5000 6S 50C Gen 2 pack, and we're going to use a 4000 6S 50C Gen 2 pack. These are both smart packs. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with going with 6S. It's going to be of the Gen 1 variety. But I would say, you know, since we have these, we're going to, of course, use these. Both of them will work great. Now, later on, if, you know, somebody were to send an afterburner or something like that and I would install it, then I could use this beautiful little balance plug to energize said device. Just saying. But if you're running this thing bone stock, then either of those two choices would be good. I actually do have Velcro on that pack too, which is nice. They have the high quality straps in here. These are the kind that are just really tug resistant, and let's see if they're free. Yes, free and free, free and free. The mark of a successful battery tray install is the fact that you can move this. Now, we got burned on the last plane we did, which was the Pilatus. It was a plug and fly. And why did we get burned?
Because we put the receiver
Before we put the battery in. We're gonna have to rough it in.
We put it in based on where the battery tray was, and the CG was significantly forward of the battery tray.
How about this? 5100C.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try that, 6S. That's going to be the biggest pack that we'll put in here. Okay, so typically on the jets, what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of move the CG back as far as we can so we can get a nice flare on landing. I don't know how that's going to work on this plane, but we do have big flaps on this, and I'm going to definitely do ailerons and flaps. So it's going to be treated just like a standard wing, and then this is going to be treated like an elevator, because I don't believe, yeah, we've got an aileron, we've got a rudder, we've got an elevator, and we've got flaps. So if you were going to go in here and set these up as essentially they'd be televons, then televons will complicate your world because you have to gain access to the center so that you can undo the mixing board, because the mixing board is going to require that you unplug probably what is a Y cable to each of these servos, because they're going to be working together. And I don't know if one's reverse and one's standard, meaning that it actually spins separate, you know, like opposite directions. That's the servo would dictate that. So I don't know that, and I'm not going to find out unless I crash this thing and have to fix it. So let's hope we don't have to do that. So I'm going to stick this in here right now and just kind of guess on my location. So the reason I bring that to your attention is that it is going to be a bit of a task to do that. Also going to be a bit of a task if you put a afterburner in there too, because like look how much stuff is going on in there.
Buried.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's not the plane for that. Okay, so we've got that. Also, this is a singular 80mm. I don't know if I already specified that or if you had already gathered it. This is not a twin 80 because obviously these openings are, you know, not that big. They're,
right.
What are these? The actual opening is not quite 60 millimeters, but it looks like we're about 72 millimeters for the actual opening. So, I mean, for the detail. The inner opening is like 60 something. So if you had twin 64 millimeters, I don't know if you'd produce near enough thrust compared to the 80. I'm not sure. Maybe it would be equivalently good. So the other thing too is with this battery, the leads going forward, I just wanted to point out another detail. That is not going to reach. So unless of course we need that back further. Remember, the whole purpose of doing this is to see where the CG ends up. Prior to mounting the receiver, because if the receiver needs to be in some weird spot, I'd like to know that now. Yeah, it's still not going to work. I'll have to have the leads going
backwards.
That's okay, because really the receiver's probably going to sit right there. Right there is where it's going to go. Are you showing the people? Right here, probably, on this tray. That's probably where it's going to go, because then I can reach with all my wires and everything. Let's try this, just see if it goes. These leads are a pretty good amount of weight of the actual battery, so you know, if you know they're going to go this way, mark it as such when you mark the plane. If you do mark it, I always mark my planes with a known battery size. That's what I've been doing of late. Okay, so that'll definitely reach, and it's going to be twisted a little something like this, so I'm just going to do that right now, and then we'll go ahead and reinstall the canopy. Typically, the drop tanks in ordnance are going to be on or about the CG point. It's not going to be a huge impact on CG, but you want to keep that in mind. It may impact your CG, so just be aware. Also, on a plane like this, you may want to test with the gear down. Just kind of depends on your taste. Do you want it to fly a certain way with the gear up or the gear down? Okay, so I'm feeling, okay, so that feels a little bit nose heavy on both of the two different positions. It is a little bit awkward to handle the plane with the battery. It gets a lot heavier with the battery, obviously. I wouldn't say it's anything too crazy. It's just that there's a lot of really detailed things on here. Okay, so I'm going to slide this back quite a little bit. I'm just going to go so it's right on the edge. That's probably going to be about where we need it, I'm guessing. But good thing we're doing the testing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we'd been in trouble already.
Yep.
Okay, so my batteries are done charging. If you hear guys chirping going on in the background. The canards get right next to your belly when you're doing this. So just be super careful you don't break them off when you're flipping the plane. Okay, so on the front set of holes, we're still a little bit nose heavy. So as you already know from watching any of my videos, I don't like adding, I almost never add weight, dead weight. I add battery weight if I can do it. There may have been like one time I put dead weight in a plane, okay? By the way, we were very close to hitting, but I'm all the way out now, okay? So you see the strap, can you show them from above? See where the strap is? That's probably where it needs to be, okay? So let's try this now. Now remember, there is gonna be a receiver which will be mounted past the CG or on the front. So that's not gonna necessarily work to our advantage. Plus landing gear, looks like the two main bogies. Okay, so I'm on the front holes as opposed to the back holes, okay? And it's leaning back. And if I go somewhere in the middle, I would say it's basically gonna be nose heavy by all measures. And looking, all the gear are gonna come to the back of the plane. So as the gear deploy, it's gonna shift the CG back, which should help us. So I guess honestly, I don't mind being a little bit nose heavy because the plane's gonna be more stable. The problem you run into with a nose heavy jet is that you almost always wanna flare, and you can't always get it to flare very good because when you come in for landing, you aren't carrying enough speed to do that. And you wanna use this huge mass to create lots of drag like that. I'm not sure though. Not sure on this one. I feel like it needs to go back further, but where are we gonna put the receiver?
Right.
See? And then you gotta have the lead go in this direction. So where are you gonna put, everything?
Well, if you're back that far, you might be able to flip the lead around.
Yeah, that's true. Let me try that.
Because you were close.
I mean, I agree with you. A 4,000 milliamp pack is gonna need to be even further back.
Well, I know. That's the thing that I'm worried about.
Well, the other thing is we could put a 7,000, but that's gonna be in front of the CG.
Even more.
Yep.
Come on, bud.
So maybe the 4,000 will let it CG out better. Out of curiosity, why don't we try that since it's done charging?
Okay.
So on channel 2, it's at 92%. I thought it was beeping.
Something beeped.
Yeah, something beeped. Okay, so this is the 4000 Gen 2 50C6S. Okay, so we're gonna slide this in. It is nice having the one set of leads. On some of these planes, it's nice because then it's just one less thing to be kind of in the mix, especially on the jets. They seem to be the worst. Okay, so I'm gonna just start right in the center, kind of see how we fit. Fits really nice. I mean, after all, they did recommend, this size. Okay, so this is gonna be plugged in about halfway like that, so we'll just try that. I always dread the idea of one of these planes slipping out of my hands.
I know.
When I'm doing an unbox like this. Okay, so that's like perfect on the front hole. On the back hole, it's gonna be quite nose heavy. And then in the middle, I would say that we're still a little bit nose heavy. So it would need to go back a little bit. But the 4000 just seems to balance out a little bit better, given that it's gonna definitively be in front of the CG quite a bit. Let's try going flush. Guys, this is the sort of thing you gotta do this or you're not gonna be happy because you're gonna mount the receiver right where you need the battery to be. I don't wanna have to use a bunch of extension cords and bring the receiver up to the front, but that is one thing that could be done and it'd be fairly easy. Okay, so on the back hole, okay, on the front hole, it's tail heavy now. And then in the middle, it's just right perfect. So I feel like that's perfect. If it's 4000, it's gotta be right there. Okay, so time to mark things up. Okay, so marker here. I'm just gonna pull the battery out. You see I've got it right on the strap. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide this thing out. Very easy to get in, easy to manipulate, plenty of room for your fingers. Okay, so I'm just gonna write 4000 right here. I'm gonna say 4000 milliamp hour, 6S, and then there's an arrow. So that'll be for the direction of the leads. Now, if I'm doing a 5000, it's gonna have to be way back. I just don't even know if we're gonna have room for that. Because the receiver, I could mount the receiver here, but the problem with here, okay, give them a nice square shot on this one. Okay, so if we're here, guys, this is at an angle. So imagine this obtuse angle. I'm exaggerating, but this is not straight with the length of the plane, okay? So if we do mount the receiver here, we're gonna have to make a wedge to make it square with the length of the plane so that the AS3X works properly. You do wanna have those square with the length of the plane, either square here, or square, I don't know if you can do vertical. So All right, let's break out the receiver now that we've kind of figured out where we need to be. This part's going to be the hybrid part of the setup where we do the receiver install. And I also want to show you the easiest possible way that you can install this doohickey here, which is what gets your telemetry for the battery pack. When you're not dealing with an Avian ESC, then you can use that to get your voltage on the pack. Not necessarily individual cell voltages, but you can at least get your overall voltage. That's my only complaint on the AR631 is that we don't have a voltage on the packs unless, of course, you have an Avian ESC, which will feed back the smart data, and then you have your individual cell count. And to be honest with you, of all the telemetry that is needed, that would be the telemetry that I expect. There is a manual in here. You'll want to hang on to that. It's actually a pretty useful manual. It's going to show you how to do the setup. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, we're just basically trying to figure out exactly where we're going to locate this thing. There isn't any double-sided tape included with this package, which, Horizon, if you're listening, that seems like it would probably be a good idea. So I don't know. It's up to you guys, obviously, but I would say it might make better sense to include that. Okay, so this is end pin, so they're on the end of the receiver. So like I said, you can mount it like this if you want, and that would give you more flexibility on all of your different setup. I wonder if we have enough thickness to where we could do that, because that would get you almost perfectly square. See?
Your battery, I don't think
I can, because the battery's too thick. Now this is the 100C, but if I did it vertical, I wonder if it would slide in there. I'll just put the leads the wrong way and see if this fits. So now some of you guys are probably thinking, Brian, just show us what you did. Well, yeah, I get that. But I'm here to try to teach some of you new pilots. Ooh, look what could happen. You could hit that.
Yeah.
You could hit that bind plug or the bind button with the battery.
Can you put it upside down?
Yes.
Could it go here?
Yeah, actually, yes. And that's not a bad idea on this plane because there is room. Maybe Velcro and...
Because what do you have for a latch? Just that little...
How far down does this go? Oh yeah, look at that. That's the same height. So that's actually... The only thing I don't like about that is that I can't see the way that it looks in there. So, but really there's plenty of room. It's going back this far.
Yeah.
So there's a full surface to mount it on, and then the end pins can go backward. I like that idea actually, because upside down is perfectly fine and acceptable. There's nothing wrong with it. So I would say that's the best thing we can do. We could just put it on the ground there too. Is there a reason we couldn't?
No, probably not.
That would be easier to see what's going on, because
Yeah.
then you can see the flashing and stuff. I would say maybe that works
Still
just a little
pins
bit
to
better.
the back.
Yeah, pins to the
Yeah.
back. Because if you go pins to the front,
You got all your wires.
yeah, I don't know. I don't like using Velcro to mount receivers because there's just too much potential for movement. You could actually take it off and mount it in a slightly different position, and then your plane's going to want to fly at an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and get some double-sided tape. We'll be right back. Okay, so we got to mount this thing, and as I mentioned earlier, I was a little bit bummed when I realized that it didn't have any double-sided tape in it. Not a big deal, but you know, probably seems to me like that might be something you'd want to add into there. Okay, so here we go. Of course, I say that now, but I've got hundreds of double-sided tape things that I've never used on some of the other receivers I have. Okay, so just stick that down. And I want to have this ready to go, but I'm not actually going to stick it down. We're going to plug everything in right now. So in order to know what channel is what, first of all, we have an NX8 here, okay? So I'm going to unplug the lanyard. It does come with its own lanyard, which is nice. I had been using my DX18's lanyard. So I'm going to turn this on, and we're just going to look at what the channels are. Okay, so we're on the P51 Mustang right now. Okay, so you can see what the channels are. So we have throttle on channel 1, ailerons on channel 2, elevator on channel 3, rudder on channel 4, gear on channel 5, flaps on channel 6, and then safe select will be here if we do it, which we're probably not going to do safe select, but we might do gains on this channel, okay? Master gains for AS3X. So that being said, we might do on off here. I'm not sure. We'll figure that out. But for now, the big thing we got to do is we have to plug everything in, and that's why we're looking at our numbering. So yes, there is a bind plug on here, but you can use the push button, which is what we're going to be using. Okay, so throttle is clearly marked as such. So I'm going to plug throttle in. The signal is marked at the top here. Okay, so that goes in right there. Didn't feel like that really went in because I went into the bind plug. Got to go one set down. Okay, so there's throttle. Channel 2, of course, is going to be ailerons. So we're going to get in here and find ailerons. So ailerons, the orange goes up because that's signal for us, and then brown goes down because that's ground for us. Okay. The next thing is elevator. So we need elevator. Of course, that's going to control the canards up front. Very clean, not very much extra wire, which is kind of good in this application, unless, of course, you're trying to put it way up here where you have tons of empty space with nothing going on. Okay, after elevator comes rudder. That'd be channel 4. Okay. Then gear, which would be channel 5 in this case. I should know all this stuff by heart, but I don't, so that's life, I guess. Okay, and then channel 6 is going to be flaps for us. Okay. All right, so we have everything plugged in there. And then if you guys weren't already aware, this is a 6-channel receiver, but what's actually going on is there are plenty of other channels for all the other controls. So don't worry. You can use the additional channels. If you had a DX18 like I used to run, then you could control a bunch of other stuff because this actually has quite a few more channels that do all the telemetry and the controls for the forward programming and all that good stuff. So like the master gains for different control channels, pitch, roll, and yaw. Okay, so I'm thinking about just kind of grabbing these wires and sliding this back so that it just kind of gets out of the way. Camera crew, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to slide this back, but I just want those wires to not be problematic for us here in a minute. So I'm just taking that throttle, kind of wrapping it around. You see what I'm dealing with? I don't want that to be under it when I go to lay it on the ground because I want it to stick down at the first opportunity. Plus these antennae are going to come out. Okay, so that's pretty well square with the length of the plane. I'm going to push it back as far as I can get it. Okay, so then where does the battery plug in? Dang it, of course I would stick that back there before I did the battery thing. Forgot about the battery thing. That's good enough.
Well,
it'll be fine. We can still plug in that last plug because this is the battery. This is the battery doohickey. So you're going to run this back and stick that into the telemetry port. So usually what I do is I run these wires way out so that they're straight, and then I twist them because I don't like having 2 individual lines that are that long. So I take and I carefully do it at the beginning, so I don't want to put a bunch of pressure on that little 1S connector. And then I just do this, okay? Okay, so I just do this, and then I get a tight braid on there, okay? And it makes it really neat. Okay, so you can do that with a drill too, which goes really fast. You just put it in the chuck lightly and then run it, and you just brace one side. Just don't rip the connector out, obviously. And then the way this works on an XT90, it's super duper easy. It's actually kind of easy on most of these. There's a couple different ways you can do this, but on the XT90, I usually just kind of brace this with my thumb. And then you have to just kind of pull back real hard, and then this thing pops out. But I just want to be careful not to yank the plane in a weird angle. I might have to get a flat screwdriver for this one. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'll get a flat screwdriver. Okay, so I got a screwdriver here. I'm going to just try to use the screwdriver to real carefully. You just have to get in here and pry this little tail off. I can't quite get the angle. You see what? All you have to do is open it, and then it pops off of there. You see how it snapped halfway there?
Yep.
Once you get it in there, then it's easy. Okay, see? Just like that, this slides back. And then basically what I will do is I will take this. I don't have it totally braided, so I can braid a little bit more up the length of it. Okay, and that just keeps it nice and tidy. So we will pause while we braid the rest of this. Okay, so we have this whole length of the cable tidied up, okay? Now, I can actually plug this in at any time, but I'm gonna wait a second because this is the next step. I have to feed this up through the back of this connector, okay, on the XT90. Okay, so the XT90 has this little rear cover. Now, some of them are just gonna have heat shrink, and so with the heat shrink, you can't necessarily always do it this way, but this is a super, super easy way of doing it. You don't have to solder then. And basically, in fact, I'm gonna probably take some strippers and strip back a little bit of the insulation on these cables, and that's gonna buy us a little bit extra bite on the wire. These canards make it very hard when you've got a lapel mic wire that keeps swinging and precariously close to it. Okay, so I'm just gonna take about doubly what's already exposed. Okay, so just like this. Now, you can do this with soldering and it's just fine. It's actually probably a lot better that way, but for practical purposes, this will be fine, okay? Because really this is just one telemetry. It's not like you're running another accessory on it, you know? Okay, so once you have that, I need just a little bit more length, so I'm gonna untwist some of it. I'm gonna just pull this through, okay. And then all I need to do is just basically slide this into and under the wire. So I got some black tape here I'm gonna use to hold everything together. And I'm just gonna grab the smallest, you know what, don't we usually use, let's use a toothpick.
Oh,
if you
okay.
had an O-ring pick that had a tight 90-degree angle on it, it'd work really nice for this. So just a little black tape, vinyl tape, just to hold things in place. And then I'll see if I can get this opened up a little bit. So I'm just grabbing the wire and just kind of pull that sheath down. You see that opens up by my thumbnail there? So once you get that pulled back just a hair, then you can slip that in there and it opens up the hole, okay? So once that's opened up, rather than having to do some fancy soldering, which of course is the best option, you can just slip that right into the opening and then you'll have a bit of a pressure fit, okay? Because I know some of you guys are not gonna wanna be able to solder or not know how to solder. And you know, to be honest with you, I would highly recommend that you learn how to solder because it's really not a hard thing to do. But if you don't have access to it, I understand, okay? So you see this? So that's gonna basically touch the red wire and get us telemetry data for the voltage of the packs, the nominal voltage of all of the 6 cells in series, okay? Then kind of the same thing here. The best thing you could do is slide it back like this and just kind of relax the cable by twisting a little bit. And then you can actually make a hole in this wire, in those braids, the bundle of wires, you see, with the toothpick. I'm just using it to displace the metal, okay? And that's gonna give you a pocket where you can actually slide that line through, okay? Which works pretty good. This is an alternative method. Okay, so I'm just gonna rock back and forth so I don't rip any of the wires. Okay, see, didn't rip any wires. I just made an opening, see, like that. And then I can take this and slide it in through there. Okay, and then double it back onto itself. Now that we have that done, I can just pull this back, kind of squish it, give it a little squish from the side, and then I can just pull up on that black wire. And that's gonna be fine. You just gotta be careful you don't short circuit anything. So you'll notice that I did a little bit more sophisticated method on the black side, so I'm gonna do that on the red side. I'll just come in here, see if we can start with the screwdriver. It was quite a bit easier starting with the, kind of depends on if they got solder wicked down this far. If the solder wicked down, then, oh, there we go. See, just walk it in. You don't want to stab yourself, but you see it's all the way through. Just give it a spin like you're trying to undo a screw, and then look, you've got a pocket, which works pretty nice. Okay, so this is all just so you can avoid soldering, which would have taken about 10 seconds. Not like in the way that this wire stripped back. Kind of separated a couple of the leads. Again, like I said, this is like putting a multimeter across a circuit. It's not carrying a lot of power, so you don't have to worry about, you know, like how much load is going to go through this. It's just a meter, a metering point. Okay, slide that sheath back a little bit more. Okay, so once we get this done, then that's basically going to take care of all the telemetry wiring stuff. We just have to kind of tidy up the cables a little bit. Okay, so we're going to wrap that around just so it goes toward itself like that. And then I'm going to take my needle nose, in this case strippers, just squish that back shut instead of using my fingers this time. Now I can tug gently to pull the excess back a little bit. And then just for good measure, I'm going to try to pull these the cable sleeves back up. And since they don't want to come up all the way, that's fine. They'll relax as soon as they get warm during the maiden flight. So I'm just going to grab that and just tape over it. A little teeny bit of tape. It doesn't need to be a lot, just to hold things in place. That's all. And then I'm going to take some scissors, clip the excess, and we'll probably end up using that on the other side too. So like I said, it doesn't need to be a lot. So this is something you can do as, you know, like a get by when you're in the field as well. But again, it's always probably better to solder it, but that's fine. Just a telemetry device. Okay, so you've got that. Then this comes out and we can twist this and get that nice and tidy. And then all we have to do is plug this into the receiver, which is now buried back here. So it's probably not going to be very fun to plug this in, but that was my bad. So you see this is keyed. It only goes one direction, okay? So I have to plug it in so that it goes like this, I believe. Excuse me, like this. So the red is going to be coming toward us in this case. And I have to plug it into that pocket up there. That is going to be a bear cat.
Do you want actual needle nose?
No, I'm going to try it this way first. Okay. If that doesn't work, then we'll go for the needle nose. Just being real gentle with that. Yeah, it feels like it's going to go okay. It's going in just fine.
Okay.
I was pretty lucky. And then this flat bladed screwdriver I'll use to push it down so it clicks. So it's in. Okay, then this, I'm just going to tuck that back so as to get it more or less out of the way. I'll kind of fold it like this. And then I'm going to fold it like this and just feed that back in a little bit of a bundle like this, okay? So it gets it nice and neat and gets it out of the way, but then it's not some big thing, okay? You don't want to be fighting this stuff in the field, so tuck it back while you can, while it's easy. Okay, so that's back there nicely, and you'll be able to manipulate this easy. Now let's deal with the antenna. The antenna I found worked really good. If you can just use a piece of clear tape, it works real nice. And there are diversity antennas on this AR637T. So the diversity antennas like to be at 90 degrees of one another. So I'm going to position this so that it kind of goes over here. And then I'll just run it up here, kind of in front of that canard mechanism. So it's on the side right there. And I used to get like really, really uptight about where the antennas and how they were located. But you see how that is? It's very simple. I'm a little bit too far forward because there's no slack here. I'm afraid I'm going to catch it with the battery. So I'm just going to pull that back. You see what I did? Now it's tight to the floor, okay? So now the next one, I'd like to go this way or vertical, okay? So I think we'll probably end up trying to go vertical. So we can carry this right over to the edge, and then I'll just loop it back and point it straight down. You know, it's kind of hard to see some of these steps. The camera crew is trying her best to give you guys a good shot. So we apologize if it's awkward for her and I on these steps because we're trying to kind of trip over each other a little bit on some of these steps. So that's not perfectly 90 degrees of each other, but it's good enough for what we're doing. It's fine. Okay. And then if we have any issues, we can secure that better with a little bit of hot glue. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's in there. It seems pretty secure.
Here, let me turn the flash on for a second. And
Yeah,
you can probably see
give them
in
a
there.
good shot inside. And you can see this, of course, is gonna kind of be out of the way. Looks really nice. I'm happy with it. I'd like to get a little bit of hot glue on the front corners of that, and then also push this over. But it looks like that might actually tuck down in between the wall here. So this is a coax cable, so you don't want to kink it at all. But you see what I did? I just kind of forced it into the foam rather than pressing on it with the tip of the screwdriver. And then I can just walk it down in there real gently. Okay, you see what I'm doing there? And that keeps from putting a lot of pressure on the cable itself. Okay, so you see that'll keep that out of the way then. Okay, now this other side, I don't think we have enough slack to do any of that. I could have probably done it if I would have chased it under those wires. That's probably worth the extra couple seconds it's going to take. Let's do that. Because the key is you never want to kink these things. You will ruin your antenna. So if you have to make a tight bend, first of all, do it on the double walled area. This is double walled, that's single walled. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to try to slide it under those wires. If I can get those wires, I know you can't see, guys. I can barely see myself. Okay, so now I'm going to take a piece of tape, and I'm going to use the tape to pick up the antenna because it's kind of stuck in the corner there. Okay, if I can get it to stick. It's kind of being a pain. Okay, I'm going to use a toothpick now then. There we go. It's funny, all these like little steps are the little steps that define the difference between a really, I don't know, a job well done and a job not well done. But they're also the ones that line up. I mean, because supposedly you can put this together in 5 minutes, but I'm pretty sure they're not talking about with the receiver and everything.
Assembly, you know.
That would be just ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to get it in 5 minutes if you have to put a receiver in. Okay. Yeah, the first time out to the flying field, you know, you might spend a little bit longer getting to that step. But really, it's been a super easy build.
Yeah,
if you
it
really
has.
Get right down to
Yeah.
it. Not that, I mean, I know that isn't really like a deal breaker for most people in the hobby, but some people just want to have a plane that's not going to be a huge pain. And I would most definitely not qualify this plane as a huge pain to build. I would say it was actually quite easy. Mm-hmm. And very pleasant experience. Okay, so there we go. All right. So now everything is nice and tidy. It's out of the way. We don't have to worry about bumping into it easily with the battery. Okay. Then also, speaking of the battery, we are going to need to put a battery in here pretty quick so we can start running stuff. So I am just thinking to myself right now, we were going to get a little hot glue in here. So why don't we do that before we go any further? I need to get this so it stays out of the way. So I'm going to double it back like this. I want it to stay out of the way. So I'm just going to sacrificially stick this into the foam carefully to hold up the wire for now, just for a second. Okay. Then I can get a little bit of hot glue where I need the hot glue and not where I don't want it. And some of you guys are probably thinking to yourself, why are you even using hot glue, Brian? Why don't you just depend on the double-sided tape? Well, that's because I don't have a lot of faith in double-sided tape. The double-sided tape kind of holds it in place until you get a glue in there. So I'm just going to go onto this, and it's wood at this spot on the model, so it's not like you have to worry about melting the foam or anything, so I can actually just stick this in there and just give it a good glob. And you want to try to avoid gluing straight onto the antennas, just for the simple fact if you ever have to take this out, but I have done a horrible job of avoiding that, as you can see. But that's going to basically, sorry, it's hot glue, I got to work quick. Basically, I just want that to push down. Then I'm gonna go along either side just a little bit. Okay, so there's that. Let's get a little bit of glue in there. I broke the cardinal rule. Hun, I licked the model.
Well,
Sorry.
you licked yourself.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so there we go.
I was gonna say I try not to show your COVID licks, but
COVID licks?
yeah,
Those are not approved, Fauci approved.
they're not.
Okay, there we go. All right, so, all right, that's glued down. So now I'm confident that that will hold it in position, even in the midst of high G Mach 7 maneuvers.
I'm really waiting for this Mach 7.
Mach 7, yeah. Simulated Mach 7.
Oh,
Okay, so we have everything physically installed. Now it's just a matter of working through the radio setup part. Obviously, we have to bind this thing, and it's a little bit different. When you have a Safe Select bind and fly, you're gonna bind the plane, and Safe is already set up. All the AS3X is already configured. All that stuff is done for you out of the box. All you have to do is bind it, and then select if you're gonna do Safe Select or otherwise. AS3X only. In this case, I'm gonna set it up with AS3X only, just because I don't wanna go the additional step. But in order to set up, the other thing too about this plane, and I just wanna talk about this for a minute, is that there are flaps and ailerons on this. This is not a delta, it is a delta wing, but it's not gonna fly like a delta wing because it has canards. Now, if canards were absent on this plane, you could still fly it. It would just become a bank and yank, essentially. You would have an elevator, ailerons, and you'd have, well, it's not a bank and yank, you still have a rudder, and you still have a steerable nose gear. But these allow you to use the flaps because the canards will help to correct for the flaps. But I believe the flap correction is actually opposite on a canard-based aircraft, similar to what you would experience aerodynamically from having flaperons instead of flaps, because the ailerons on the outboard portion of the wing down create a different aerodynamic effect, and so the correction is actually opposite. It's weird. So I don't know why that is, it's just the way it works. So I think I'm gonna just start by using the 4000 because it's a little easier to get in and out. And I can go ahead and pull out my temporary support because the glue is obviously set up by now. Okay, so everything is in there, just making sure that the receiver is settled where it's going to be. I feel like it's flat, but I want to make 100% sure that it's where it's going to be because that's the position that it's going to see as absolute even level in the 3-axis of reality. Okay. So the other thing too that's unfortunate is if you plug in the battery and the gear come out, you're gonna have to accommodate for that. So just be prepared the first time you plug it in. So at this point, it's time to create a new model before you even plug it in. This is just gonna be a blank acro. We're gonna set up our throttle cut and our timers and things of the such. So click, scroll all the way down to system setup, confirm disconnect of the RF, go down to model select, scroll to the bottom. You can add a new bind and fly or add a new model. Or add from a template. I'm gonna add a new model. I'm gonna create, see the different styles. Okay, I'm gonna create, dang it, sorry. Create an acro. Okay, so now it's got the model type here as acro. Model name, of course, it's gonna be 19 in this one, and this is gonna be the Rafale. So you click, on the item you want to change. It highlights it with a cursor color of black and inverts the colors. And then you can go ahead and type it in. So I'm going to type in the name, the Dassault Rafale 80mm. So we're going to come right back. So the Dassault Rafale 80mm, and that's all the characters I have. So we've got the model name, then the aircraft type. So the wing types are as such, okay? So this is not an elevon, just keep that in mind, okay? This is still a normal wing with one flap and one aileron, okay? See? And then we're gonna treat the tail as a normal tail. And you're like, but Brian, it's got canards. Well, which I don't really think there's anything special here. I suppose technically you could set it up as televons with a rudder, okay? Telerons with a rudder. But we're not gonna do that because there is a mixing board that's already taken care of the electronics for that. So it's gonna be normal, okay? See, normal. Then next, then we can change this image. Oh, that looks pretty close. Cool. So we can go back here. We aren't gonna mess with channel assigns yet. We aren't gonna mess with any telemetry. We're gonna go back out to the main menu. We're gonna set up a throttle cut immediately. Throttle cut's gonna be set to switch H in my case. You can see it's not working. Now it is working, meaning the throttle cut is off, so the throttle is working. Throttle cut's on, and it is not, which is what we want. I don't want a delay, and I don't want to require low stick. Okay, then I'm gonna go to timer. Did you remember seeing a timer?
I don't. I can look again, but I did not see one.
I bet it's gonna be short, like 3 to 3.5 minutes. We're gonna definitely do the 1 out. And then we're gonna do 1 minute, we'll have a tone. And at 20 seconds, we're gonna be nothing. And at 10 seconds, we're gonna do voice for a countdown. Expiration, we're gonna do tone and vibrate. And every minute thereafter, we'll do tone.
Did you want to do voice and vibrate or tone and vibrate at expiration?
Thank you. That's exactly right. Tone and vibrate. Okay, cool. So then also there may be some other audio events we're gonna set up, and those are gonna pertain to the voltage warnings for the nominal voltage of the pack, okay? So that's why we did that little red and black wire, okay? So we're gonna walk out. We also have to set up the flap mode. So flap mode is going to be, did they have anything in the manual about setting this up?
Do you want me to grab the manual again?
Yeah, so switch beat, yeah, why don't we do that just to verify what they want for this? Okay, so they don't have set up like an E-flite model, but they do have a program in the ESC, which is kind of cool. That's on page 17. Then also, I want to talk to you about this part here. They do show in the manual the amount of throws. They show the points where everything's supposed to be hooked up. Here's the elevator rates for high and low. Looks like they want you to drop down the rates for a low rate pretty significantly. But they don't even talk about flaps at all. So that's a little bit weird because there is most definitely a flap wire coming out. So if you were going to use the ailerons, the full length ailerons, then you would need to do some mixing to get the flaps to operate as ailerons all the time that they're not acting as flaps. So the inboard portion could be, the other thing is you can run both flaps and ailerons in a Y cable, which would go into just your aileron channel, or you can run flaps and you would have to separate them at that breakout board, and then you could run them as flapperons and flapperons, and then you can control them independently. And you can set up a different wing type for that. I'm not gonna do any of those things. I'm just gonna set it up like a regular wing type, and we'll see how it works. If it works good, then we'll be fine. If it doesn't work good enough, if we don't have enough roll rate, then we'll have to set up the flaps to have a mix with the ailerons, but they're not separated right now. So there is no way to tell the left and the right to go up and down opposite one another without acting as flapperons. So the inboard flaps would be flapperons, the outboards would be ailerons. It's gonna take some work to do that. But the mixing board may do that. So that's what we're gonna find out here in a minute or two. Okay, so the reason we wanted to talk about that is just so you understand kind of what's going on there. Again, this is a 6-channel receiver. So we're just gonna set the flaps to This is just guesswork. It's only half, so I don't want it to damage itself. So we'll go -50, and then we'll go +50, and then we'll just do no elevator correction at this point, because we'll just depend on a balloon happening, okay? So balloon meaning when we fly, we deploy the flaps. The balloon might actually be opposite because this is a delta wing. Okay, so it might push us down, that might be bad, but I can just ride the elevator a little bit, which is not gonna be ideal, but it is what it is, because I don't know what it's supposed to be. So at this point, we also have gear. The gear have not really been assigned, so I'm just gonna go into the monitor mode by scrolling over and just making sure that we have gear changing state. Okay, so if they open quick, I can switch it back, okay? So throttle cuts on. Throttle cuts on, all my switches are in the states I want them for fail-safe. My expo is gonna be here. So why don't we set up the expo and dual rates right now while we're thinking about it. So dual rates and expo, we're gonna go down here, switch it to switch F. So at 0, we're gonna have 5, then we're gonna have 10, then we're gonna have 20, and we'll drop the rates down to 90. We're gonna do the same thing on all 3. So switch F. At the lowest, it's gonna be 5, then we're gonna have 10, then we're gonna have 20. Now this is just because I haven't flown this plane, I don't know how it's going to handle, so I'm just gonna do it the easy way, which is the same for all 3. Assign it to switch F. Oops, it switched to switch E on accident. We're gonna go to 5 for the rudder, then we're gonna go to 10 on the middle setting, and then on the top setting, we're gonna go to 20. And then we're gonna drop the rate down to 90. Okay, this is a good starting point. So I'm gonna fly with it in the middle condition. If it's too touchy, then I can go to the less touchy setting. If it's not touchy enough to get it to the ground, I can go to the more touchy setting. And then once we land, we'll make our adjustment so that the middle is whatever we liked better, and then we'll double and half. That's the way you do that. It's super nice because you have one switch, your muscle memory, you're not sitting here like maidening a new plane and like, oh God, I can't quite control it, and then, oh, I don't know where. You're gonna just go right there. It's very easy, okay? And I can do that hands-free and still be on the throttle, but I do have to come off of the ailerons and elevator. I try not to come off the elevator and ailerons, but this stick centers, okay? So it's not a big deal. And with Safe Select, you can have it auto level too, but I'm not gonna set up Safe Select on this. This plane is probably not gonna be a Safe Select type plane, okay? There's no reason you couldn't set it up. I'm just saying the type of person that's gonna be flying this plane is probably not gonna need safe. It might be fun to have, just to see it. Okay, without further ado, we're gonna bind. So throttle cuts on, the gear switch is in the condition I'd like it to be, my expo's in the middle, timer set, everything's cleared. So we're gonna just do this almost like a dry run, like we're getting ready to fly. Obviously it's dark out, so we're not gonna do that right this second. It's been really bad weather, a lot of rain, a lot of wind, typical springtime in Iowa. So we're trying not to get too discouraged. Okay, so we got that strapped in nicely, and we can check all the CG stuff now that we have the receiver mounted. Okay, and as you can see, we've got plenty of room to get everything plugged in. Pretty easy. Jets are some of the worst, the hardest to work with in terms of plugging stuff in. Verify polarity because this is not a matched up. Okay, awesome. That is so cool. Okay, those lights are bright and awesome. There's only one forward facing white. Okay, you'll notice the flaps are down. You hear the beeping? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's not bound.
Deck, yeah.
It's not bound. Okay, so my apologies, folks. I forgot. We have to bind the plane. So the reason you hear the ESC beeping right now is because we didn't bind the plane. So I'm going to unplug power. Okay, so the way we do this is very simple. We're going to turn this off by pressing the power button and holding it for a second. It's going to shut off. Everything's in the correct position. I'm going to press this button. Okay. And I think I can just press it with my middle finger and then plug it in. Oh, goodness gracious. There it goes. Okay, so it's flashing. There's a fast flash. You want to trade sides. So now I need to be far enough away to do this. I'm going to try to get as close as I can. While holding the bind button, it says
DSMX 22 telemetry.
Now it's going to auto configure. ESC's chirped. And we're live. Elevator up, elevator down. Rudder, ailerons, elevator. Oh, wow, those are mixed. That goes up. Those go up and up. Down and down. Rudder left, rudder right. Is it going the correct direction? Yes, yes. Yes and yes. Flaps. Okay, so the flaps are a little bit weird because everything is changing when I actuate the flaps. So I'm going to go back into the flap system and I'm going to change that to 0. And then I'm going to, actually I'm going to set it to, ooh, you see what's happening there? I'm just going to set it to full on or full off. You see what's happening? Oh, it is mixed. Okay, so the flap controls the, it is doing all the mixing. See? Elevator, rudder. Awesome, guys. Flaps, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. I have them backwards. So what we're going to do is, rather than flipping the channel, I'm just going to reverse these. Put that to 100. So anything over about 85, it looks like it switches. And then this one, we're going to go the other way. Now watch it switch. It's going to switch about 75, 80, something like that. Watch. Oh, I'm not in that switch setting. Okay. And then look, you can still do an elevator correction. See the elevator correction? Mm-hmm. If you want it. I'm not sure if we're going to need it. That is awesome. Now, it's fast acting, so I'm going to set that to probably 2 seconds. That's what we're used to. But you know what? 2 seconds is not going to work on this plane. You know why?
Because of all the mixing.
Because the controller board is actually doing it. So we're going to have to set that to normal for fast acting. Okay, so when we deploy the flaps, you can see what's going on. So this is actually called crow because these go up and these go down. See? That is so cool. Now, I want to change something here in my servo setup. I want to go to travel for flaps, and I want to go to the neutral so I can adjust both. I want to see what happens when I set this and overdrive that. Do they move more? I can't tell.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either. Nope. So they're already predetermined for us. So the good news is we are going to have a really easy time setting this up because it's basically set up. Now, the question becomes, how is forward programming going to handle all this? Because technically, the flaps are not a control channel. They're just another channel, okay? They're not a primary control axis, roll, pitch, and yaw, okay? So let's go ahead and throw the canopy on, make sure everything sits in there correctly, which it absolutely does. We need to open the retracts. So the first opening, look at those lights. That is so sweet. Sorry, the lab mic fell off, folks. So I have to try to flip this switch while I have this beauty in the air. Look how awesome that looks.
That's cool.
And then did you notice the flashing lights on the wingtips?
Yep.
Wow, that is really, really cool. And I am holding it right by the landing gear right now, so I'm gonna have to reposition to something like this. Okay, you guys ready? Oh, that is so sweet. So there is a sequencer too. Oh yes, that is awesome. Look at those lights on the nose gear.
Oh, cool.
Wow, that is so sweet. Okay, so let's lay this down. Man, this plane is awesome. Okay, so you want to show them underneath here? I'm gonna squat the plane. Yes. Is that one not moving as easy? I don't know why that one's, there we go. Just a little bit stiffer. That is so cool. Full functioning oleos. Look at this. Oh, that's soft. I like that. Real soft. Beautiful wheels too. Boy, that is just something else. Okay, all right, throttle cuts off. I'm just gonna brace it in case it goes too fast. That is awesome, guys. There's a cat. Should I scare the crap out of it? Wow, didn't even run away. That's crazy. Okay, so throttle cuts on. We did not see any appreciable change by increasing the servo range for flaps. So really all we have to do is take off flaps, landing flaps, and we already have crow mixed into that. That is really nice. And when I say crow, these go down and act as flaps. These go up and act as ailerons, flaperons in this case, okay? Or spoilerons. These are spoilerons. These are flaps. Because when the control surface goes up, that would be a spoileron. That is really cool. Okay, so super impressed with the way everything is working. It always makes me nervous when I see all these things controlled by a mixing board that I don't know about. And I don't know if it's going to continue to work, but let's just assume they know what they're doing at FMS. Now, we need to do the forward programming still. So even though everything seems to be working, we have no AS3X, and I'm going to need AS3X on this plane, more than likely. So right now, I'm going to click into the function list. I'm going to go down to forward programming, connecting. It's going to make a connection here, an established connection. We're going to go to gyro settings, first time setup. And I'm not even going to look at the manual. Make sure the model has been configured, including wing type, reversing, travel, trimmed, etc. before continuing. Okay, next. Any wing type, channel assignment, subtrim, or servo reversing changes require running through initial setup again. Thanks for the reminder. Set the model level and press continue. This is level, and I'm going to continue. Set the model on its nose and press continue. Now you'll notice the orientation of the plane. I want to try to keep it oriented the same. And then camera crew, I might need you to click the button because this one's a little bit tough. Okay, are you ready? I'm going to set it on its nose, meaning I'm going to simulate having it on its nose, but I don't want to crush the nose. So go ahead and click the continue.
Okay, so stand by. And then orientation 1.
Is it done?
Yes.
Okay, so now you can lay it back down. Orientation 1, that sure looks like the way we've got it in there, right?
I love when that works out.
Yep.
Like
so we
every
can
single
continue.
time.
Yeah, it has never not worked. Okay, so gain channel select. We're going to set that to not A, obviously. We want to set that to, let's set it to this. Well, that's going to be the input, but I want to set it to, I don't know what channel that is, aux 2, aux 3. Oh, right now, there it is.
Yeah.
Look at that. And let's go next. And let's apply. Whoa, that's probably not so good. Okay. Receiver is rebooting. That's why the gear did that. So you might want to be ready for that, unlike me. I think that's correct. It's supposed to do that.
Do I need to click for menu?
Yeah, please. Okay, hit back. Okay. I don't want those gear to open again.
No.
Well, actually, do me a favor. It's obviously beeping. It's not connected yet. Oh, there it goes. That was maybe not the best option. Kind of scary.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you know it happens, you can avoid, I was quick with it, but if you were not paying attention, that could damage stuff because those sequencers and the gear door, okay, everything is working, everything is working, everything is working. And by the way, those lights are beautiful and they even point down at the runway. They don't just point forward, they point down.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely gorgeous. I love that it's soft too. And look at this extra strut for support. So cool, guys. Okay, so now that we know that that all is working, let's see what happens. Elevator up, elevator down, rudder left, right, aileron roll, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. So everything is functioning. Let's see if AS3X will. Obviously nothing because it's off. You have to give throttle to turn AS3X on. Okay, so I'm gonna throttle cut is off. That's awesome. Okay, lots of power. That thing screams. Okay, so it's working. It's working. I can't quite tell if it's going the right direction, so I'm gonna turn the knob all the way up. So I'm just gonna rock the plane carefully. Off, gain, down. Can you come over here close so that they can see what's going on? Do you see the rudder, how it's moving? When I move the rudder, no, go over my right shoulder. And then you can see the rudder. Okay, right there. See how it moves towards you and then away from you and then towards you and then away from you? Now watch the aileron on this wing right in front of my face. Up, down, up, I can't tell. Oh wait, the whole thing's moving. I can tell that side's working right. Up. Then I'm gonna look at this also. Elevator, elevator.
It's
subtle,
subtle,
but it's working. Plus, you have to be careful because canards work opposite of what you think they should.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the elevator is going to go up, up, down. Now I want to see as I roll the plane this way, that thing should go up. Nope, I can't see it. It's working, but I just can't tell what direction it's going. So I'm going to show you how to fix that or test it. Okay, so we're going to go back into the flap, or excuse me, the forward programming. Throttle cuts on. Gyro settings. AS3X. Gains. So we're on setting 1. So 4 times is going to make it incredibly strong. Okay? So now it should move like crazy. Yep, you see how I go up? It's going the wrong way. See that side on your side there, camera crew? It goes down when I roll. So this would induce a roll. Okay? The rudder's going correct. You can really see it now. And then the televons, the elevator is correct, but the roll axis is wrong. Okay?
So can you switch just
yes.
one?
So watch.
Okay.
So I want to put that back to probably 1. See, it does kind of that same thing that the old one did. See, when you're in this, as you're scrolling, it wants to go back to 1. See? But you can get it to do 0.5. You just have to click really quick. Ah, dang it.
Yep.
Okay, so, sorry, kick this out. See, if you want to go to the lower settings, it just doesn't like letting you do that. So I'm going to go back to 1. I'm going to go to flight mode setup. It's active, and it's on the FM channel. Okay, flight mode channel. So I could set that to this one. And then this could be my gain. I don't know if I can do both though. I'm still learning this part, guys. So system setup, first time safe setup. Let's do this. Relearn servo settings, orientation. Okay, orientation. No, I don't want to do that. Utilities.
Wait, the gain channel select? Can you reverse
No,
that?
I need to, yeah, I know, but that's, I'm not sure where it is. System setup, orientation, gain channel select, utilities, other settings, initiate receiver, factory reset. Okay, save and backup, initiate receiver line. I'm trying to remember where we did that before because we've had to do this once. So let's see if it's rolling backward. Oh yeah, it's just backward. See, look, when I push this over here, it's rolling backward. So we have to redo the ailerons. The elevator's correct, the rudder's correct, but the elevator's correct, the ailerons are backward.
Oh.
So look, so you can do that from servo setup, travel, reverse, ailerons. Okay, now let's look. That's gonna roll, that's gonna roll. Okay, check with flaps on. Yep, and yep. Okay, so everything's working there. So now we just need to go in and relearn the positions. So we're gonna go back into forward programming. You need to be aware that the gear could cycle, so just be aware of it and be careful. Okay, gyro settings. Center system setup. Where was that? Relearn servo settings. Okay, apply. Complete. Okay, so now we can walk out. Ailerons. Okay, so let's stand behind the plane just to make sure we don't make any mistakes. Elevator up, elevator down. Roll left, roll right. Yaw left, yaw right. Everything is working with the exception of we need to test the master gains. Okay, so the master gain, I think we're good on master gain, but let's go ahead and try it anyway. All the way up. I can see the yaw. You guys will have to take my word for it because it's very subtle watching the rudder go like this. Now I'm gonna watch like a hawk this aileron. Up, down, yep. Up, down, yep. I look at both even though they're connected together. Now the elevator, this is gonna be confusing. The canards are gonna look like they're going backward, I think. Okay, so up and down, up and down. And I have to look at both sides because all the control surfaces are together. Okay, so up, down. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. When I say this is looking like it's going to operate backward, if you're envisioning this as being an elevator, when I pull back on the stick, that looks correct, and that looks correct. But the correction, it's so small, it's really hard to tell. Okay, that's with the gain all the way up on 1x. I feel like if I go to 2x or 4x, let's show what happens if we do that. So forward programming, connecting, okay, gyro settings, AS3X settings, gains, oops, sorry. Okay, so we can set that to 4 times. And when that's all the way up, look how intense this is gonna be. Left, right, up, down, left, right, roll, 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 roll. Okay, now the canards, see the canards? It is correct, but it's confusing. It's just like looking at a steerable nose wheel compared to the rudder. I feel like the rudder, it's very easy to tell what's going on, but if you look at the nose wheel, it feels like it's backward, but it's actually not. The same is true with canards. Try it, some guys, and you guys will understand what I'm talking about. So now, that's with the gain all the way up. Now watch what happens. All the way off, all the way on. Okay? So that gives you the maximum amount of deployable stabilization. You're probably going to overstabilize the plane. The key is you can go all the way to nothing. But then let's say that you find that like this point is the best point for the 3, it's like the balance of the 3 axis of stabilization. So what you're going to do is then when you land, you're going to click on AS3X settings and you're going to go in here and you're going to maybe back this off to like 1 times because then you can get a little bit better precision, okay? Then you're also going to go in here and you can set the priority, okay? So these are going to be set. And then there's also gains for each of the control axes. Okay, so you may want a little bit less on yaw. You may want a little bit more on pitch. You may want a little less on roll. And the way you're going to tell is as the plane is flying, okay, you're going to fly at full speed and it's going to start to oscillate. Oscillate like this. Usually elevator seems to be the one that oscillates the most. Or it's going to start doing this, which would be your roll. Or it's going to do this. Yaw is bad. If it does yaw, that's really weird. But the first thing you do, you go full throttle, and let's say about 60–70% of speed, you start noticing an oscillation on the tail. If it's like this, it's really hard to tell. But if it's like this, you'll know for sure it's the roll. So you have to come in here and you take the roll from 40, and you're going to run it down a little bit. Now, these 3 are controlled simultaneously by this, essentially. Okay, so this is like all the way up. This is 0. This is 100%. Okay, this is like 50. I'm going to start it at 50. I can go down to nothing or I can go up to something more. Okay, just like I can with my Dual Rates and Expo. So the idea is you set yourself up for success in your maiden, then you make adjustments on your maiden, between your maiden and your second flight. And then between your second and your third. And the next thing you know, it's totally refined and you save everything. The plane flies like a daydream. So, and you can just watch my video and copy whatever we come up with, but you do have to watch the video. A lot of people ask me questions and I don't remember because it's like a million planes to keep straight. So I would be watching the video. So you watch the video and then see what we said. Sometimes you have to go to the second flights video or the second thoughts videos and you can see some of the things we learned after the fact. Because sometimes on the maiden flights, maybe it's real windy or it's raining or something weird comes up or we're in a hurry or it's like -14 degrees or whatever. and then we are in a hurry. This plane looks stinking awesome. I cannot wait to fly it. I'm super glad we did this one tonight because it is just phenomenal. And by the way, so far the NX8 has been great. I feel like if you had an NX10, you would have sliders, I believe, here and here, if I'm not mistaken. And that would give you the ability to set gains for all three axes of control. So you could have a gain for your yaw, and you could have a gain for your pitch, and you could have a gain for your ailerons. And then you could have full control as you're going, which would be pretty cool. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it would be kind of nice. Now, that being said, I set all my Expo onto one switch because there is such a thing as pilot fatigue. You got a 3-minute flight, a lot can happen in 3 minutes. So, that being said, this thing is going to be awesome. My only complaint is that I can't deploy those slow. That would be way cooler. But honestly, it's, you know, being that they're in a crow configuration, you're not going to probably experience a huge, great deal of ballooning. What you're going to experience is you're going to experience slowing down, so the canards are going to keep you pointed level. Okay? See, they go up. All right, cool. Any questions, camera crew? We went through a lot on that one.
Yeah.
And also, it didn't reboot. It didn't ever reboot, even after
That's
we
true.
learned
Those
the
servo
servo
settings again.
Yep.
Yep.
So now the other thing too is on an FMS, there are times when you can go ahead and overdrive your servos if you need a little bit extra deployment for additional yaw. My guess is that this thing is going to want to roll really bad when we use the rudder. Okay. So in level flight, if it rolls really bad, because it's going to, you know, it's just a lot of these tall vertical planes. It reminds me of like the Airbus A380. I had to do a little bit of a reverse tie to the ailerons. So when I would use the rudder, then the ailerons would operate opposite.
So that you're not always
you
like
flat.
turning. Okay.
So you would give it some yaw, and this would want to roll this is going to want to roll the plane. Okay, it's going to want to roll the plane and yaw the plane. So then you just give a little bit of negative aileron with it. You can do that with your thumbs, or you can do it with a mix. If you're going to do it with a mix, let me just show them real quick since I mentioned it. I'm not going to set it in here yet because it may roll flat, but I'm kind of assuming it's not going to.
Okay, when you said negative aileron, is that the same thing as when
So
you
it'd be
say
a
like
rudder.
contrary?
Yes, contrary.
Okay.
Yep. So aileron to rudder would be one way. That's what we do on a lot of warbirds. But really what we want is rudder to aileron. Okay. So if you were going to do that, it'd be rudder to aileron. So it might be like at like -6, let's say. And then -6. Okay. So now let's look what that looks like from the end of the plane. Okay. So when I give it rudder, see, you can barely see it. Oh, that's not on yet. You see how it says inhibit? You have to go down to inhibit when you're done and turn it on or put it on a switch. So you see that? So if I do this, that's going to make the plane want to roll. So then this is going down to help counter that a little bit. And this is going up to help counter that a little bit. And it's proportional. So like on this plane, you might need more like -10. Okay? That would be what I would call contrary ailerons. Okay? And that'll help keep your rudder or yaw axis nice and flat.
And if you were going to do that with your sticks and not with a mix,
Then you would just
be
move your sticks like
opposite.
this. It's quite difficult. I don't like doing that. So I'm just going to inhibit that so it's ready to go. And you can also set that mix so that when you deploy the flaps, that there's a little bit more going on. Because a lot of times when you come into a landing, you're going to use the rudder to help get you in alignment, but you don't want it to drop the wingtips and have a tip stall. Okay. So I've got that inhibited, and we'll add that later if we need to. Everything, I believe, is set. It's ready to go. We have the timer set to 3 minutes. I don't know if that's enough. We're going to definitely try this on 4,000 milliamp hour. Initially, we'll see what kind of a flare we can get on landing. My guess is it's going to be okay. And what we're probably going to have to do is we're probably going to have to walk that battery back a little bit to really get it to flare the way I want. Because I have a sneaky suspicion that with this, it rolls smooth, so it is going to want to roll forever. And on our runway that's not exceedingly long, we don't want to roll off the end of the runway. So the other thing too that we customarily do with large EDFs is I want to see if this thing will float. I want to see if it's got 1-to-1 power to weight ratio. I am going to do it with the gear down just so I can lay it down. Whoa, look what happened to the gear door. It just opened.
I heard him.
That was weird. That was very weird. Why the heck did that happen? There's like nowhere good to hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna hold here. This is gonna be kind of noisy. I apologize in advance, camera crew.
Okay.
That would be a negative. It's close, but no cigar.
Not quite.
So, even still, pretty close.
A lot of power.
The A10 was one of the few that would stand on my finger in the living room. And it was just a little bit under.
What did we just do that did though?
The A10 UMX.
Oh yeah.
So ironically enough. So really excited for this. I think it's, with that amount of power, it's not gonna be doggy, so I'm happy. You need almost 1-to-1 to make a jet look like a jet. Okay, so that's why I like to do that test. Plus then it kicks up lots of dust and the camera crew loves it.
Yeah.
So without further ado, it's late. This was a fun build. It was a little bit more involved than I thought just because of the mixing and the different things that were involved, but it wasn't hard really.
No.
This is definitely not a beginner plane, so just don't even ask. It's not a beginner plane. If it flies really good, I will swallow my pride and admit I was wrong, but I'm telling you right now, I'm not wrong. This thing's not gonna be a beginner plane. If you like the way it looks and you want a beginner plane, go find a Delta Ray.
Yeah.
Delta Rays are awesome, by the way. They were much, much fun. And by the way, speaking of Delta Ray, you guys don't know this, and I can't tell you this either, but there's a plane coming out that's a little bit like the Delta Ray, and you guys will love it. And it's gonna be so cool. But since I, can't share any more than that, that's pretty much what you get for now. Also, there's that big, huge, like multi-meter plane that's maybe red, it could be red, it might be a little bit of silver involved, that we can't review right now. We are reviewing it. It exists in our physical possession, but we just can't do it yet. So if you could be nice to us and maybe not ask another 10,000 times, I know you're gonna do it just because you wanna poke fun at me because I can't. And I appreciate that, but I will give you the stock answer, which is we can't do it yet. And we will be doing it. I promise, I promise. So don't be disappointed by awesome planes like this, just because there's another awesome plane that's multimeter that's red coming out soon on Brian Phillips RC here on YouTube. Guys, check the link in the description. The number one thing you can do to support us is, of course, be part of this community. Watch the videos, give us a thumbs up, like the videos, click the bell for notifications. If you want to help support us a little bit financially, you can buy the plane that you were going to buy anyway from the links below. In fact, you can follow the Horizon Hobby master link and buy whatever plane you want. It doesn't matter. It could be this plane. It could be another plane that you're waiting for. It could be that P-51, which is awesome. By the way, that's our 4th one we reviewed, and it is a phenomenal, and I'm saying in that size class, that exact plane we've done 3 times. So very good plane, and yes, it is new. It's got the new 631 in it, and we did review it with the NX8. We went through a very detailed review of this. Probably a little bit tedious, but the thing is, I know a lot of you guys are gonna ask a lot of questions, like, is it really worth the extra $40? Yes, just get this one. If you've got the budget for $310, you have a budget for $350, so just get this. You'll buy probably 2 to 3 years of extra life out of it. Now, that being said, if you're planning on getting an iX20, then just buy that, and then you can forget how awesome these are because you have the most awesome one out there. But if you need to pay a mortgage or feed your kids and things like that, then you may want to get the NX8. Any other thoughts, camera crew?
I was gonna say thanks for that.
We're gonna link to this in the video description. We're gonna link to this in the video description, and we will link to, of course, the different battery packs that we have here. We'll probably just link to the G2, but if you want a G1, that's fine. My understanding is that for the foreseeable future, the G1 packs are going to be available because not everybody wants to lose the bounce lead and not everybody wants to pay the slight premium for the slightly better G2 packs. I'm with you guys. I've had a few different people ask me about G2 packs. Are they worth the premium? I don't know at this point. My experience has been that the G2 packs perform a lot like the G1 packs. I haven't seen a huge appreciable difference, but I can definitely tell you this. It is really nice when we are frantically getting ready and we're charging like 20 batteries to just stick them in and then stick them in and then stick them in. I mean, it's like a thing. We're like working batteries for like an hour. So it's really cool. Secondly, on G1, G2, smart packs, they've been awesome. We have had one that puffed maybe 5%. And I was very mean to it with the F18. Very, very mean to it with the F18. Like full throttle for an entire 3.5 minutes, and it was hot. Okay, that's the only pack that has puffed at all. Beyond that, well, I did blow up a couple, but that's all right. I'll let you guys figure out what plane it was that it was definitely not the pack's fault. It was my fault. And I did have an old timber that I had flown many sporties, and I ripped the front end of it off. With the battery, came out, the ESC battery and motor goes midair. It's all right. I was gonna sell it that day. No big deal. That was my original timber, and yes, we did fix it, and yes, it does fly. Still awesome. So that being said, guys, come back for more. This thing is gonna be awesome. I'm sure the flight went phenomenal. I'm sure I didn't crash into any trees. Please. And it's lived to see another day because this thing is awesome, and I will be doing a second thoughts for you at some point. We're gonna try to do that consistently on any of the new releases, barring unforeseen circumstances like crashes or major changes in the plane design. And then we'll definitely do second thoughts, like for instance with the Corsair 1.7 meter that had the prop pitch adjustment from FMS. Obviously we brought that to you, and so did everybody else. But for now, this thing's awesome. Come back for more.